Opa-locka workshop. We have called this meeting in preparation for our State of the City. Over 50 years ago, our leadership passed the ordinance and became law. It said that each year the mayor must submit a State of the City report to the people and present the State of the City report during the month of consultation with the city manager, city attorney, and also the city commission. So the purpose of this meeting is to hear from our staff, our manager about what's going on in the city, so that we are all on the same page. Personally, this is one thing I want to make sure that we as a commission all get the same information and have information beforehand so that we are on the same page and we can contribute to this state of the city, which is an event for all of us, what we need to do. So with that said, Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor, Vice Mayor Williams,
Present.
Mayor Pygott.
I am present. Commissioner Taylor, would you lead us in invocation?
God, we thank you for one more time in your name. God, that you come into this meeting with the people.
Pledge of allegiance. All right. Do we have any public on the line that may want to provide any comments?
No, there were no public comments provided by 3:30 today.
Right. And is there, Mr. Clerk, do you have the rules and regulations that govern?
Correct. Yes.
Public comment? Could you state them?
Interested members of the public were able to submit comments regarding matters on the agenda by emailing comments before 3:30 p.m. The day of the meeting to public comments at opelaccafl.gov. There were no comments submitted today by 3:30 p.m.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to our discussion item where we would hear the State of the City reports from manager's office and all of other offices. Mr. Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a matter of clarification. Seems to be a issue with volume. At the beginning of the meeting, the volume is very high. Now it seems muffled on Zoom, but I can't hear. So I'm going to go ahead and start my beginning portion of my report. But if IT can kind of work on that, I know other staff members are having similar issues. The city has made excellent progress in restoring its physical integrity and credibility as a viable and responsible city. With the support and assistance of the mayor and the city commission, it is my goal to meet all the requirements that will allow the city of Opelocker to exit from state oversight. This year's accomplishment, it gives me great honor to inform the city of Opelaca has completed and submitted an effective and realistic 5-year financial recovery plan with assistance of staff. The tax base grew by 30.1%, reduced to 29.2% after a year of value adjustment board activity, primarily due to a major Amazon into the city, providing an additional ingoing $2.4 million of property tax revenues to address important city needs. To bring community awareness as to the dangers of COVID-19 and the precautionary efforts to be taken to lessen the risk of the infection, the city of Opelaca has a walk-up testing site in the city, which serves approximately 20,000 people thus far. We have also distributed approximately 35,000 face masks to residents and employees. We have installed temperature readers at several city facilities, as well as hand sanitizing stations. With the assistance of the finance department, the city was able to complete fiscal year 18 audit. The City National Bank hold 2015 note associated with financing the municipal complex. There are funds held up in approximately $5.2 million that were released, and based on a vote of confidence that the bank held with the city based on the progress the city's made. which was a very, very significant stride that was made. This stride was made with the assistance of our finance department, our city attorney, city manager's office, as well as cooperation with our mayor, vice mayor, and city commission. We got approximately $901,000 of CIATT funds released. In August of 2019, I approved the organizational development improvement plan for the police department, which was well needed to move the agency forward in the 21st century. We're currently in a search of a new police chief, which is currently underway, which will be coming into its conclusion. I'm happy to say that on the 12th, 4 to 5 finalists will be interviewed for the police chief position, narrowing those 5 finalists down to 3. And those 3 finalists will be brought to the public, where a public interview will be done, where we'll be requesting public input, as well as public questioning of those individuals. So that will be coming underway, with hopefully a police chief being chosen, hopefully by the end of January, no later by then mid-February. We have recruited a new major, as well as 2 new lieutenants from within our agencies that is currently running the day-to-day operations of the police department. I recently hired a Parks and Recreation director and assistant director that will focus on reorganizing, rebranding the Parks and Recreation department. The city hired a public relations firm to ensure an accurate and a positive image for the city is presented. With the assistance of the city commission, the city secured $2.1 million from of CARES Act money. And this would not have been possible without the assistance of the mayor and city commission, but more specifically, our vice mayor, previous vice mayor, Davis. The city was able to implement a program where 5,617 grocery gift cards were distributed to Opelocker residents. In addition, a housing assistance program was implemented to assist Opelaca residents with paying their rent and mortgage. In 2021, the goals are to see the city invest millions of dollars in infrastructure improvements, including completing remaining sewer main relining, road resurfacing, installing new sidewalks, and the renovation of Ingram Park, which those projects were delayed due to COVID-19. The implementation of evaluation of all city assets, the increased emphasis on community policing and community outreach programs, the achievement of further reduction of criminal activity, and major emphasis on seeking grant opportunities. This concludes the report of the city manager's office, which is a basic overall overarching report. And the next department to go forward would be the Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, colleagues. I'm here to present the Parks and Rec report to you guys. So Parks and Rec donated over $3,500 worth of toys for our annual toy drive. Parks and Recreation staff, in conjunction with Feeding South Florida and Commissioner Taylor's office, assisted with food distribution. Food bundles were delivered to Archbishop, Town Center Senior Complexes, and our Seniors on the Move participants. We also assisted with the gift card distribution. The construction of the outdoor restroom at Ingram Park has begun. Parks and Rec management is in the process of developing a Parks and Recreation logo, along with the Parks and Recreation Department Policy and Procedure Manual. Parks and Recreation Management is also working on a layout of the social media platform. This will help Parks and Rec to communicate effectively with residents and highlight parks and recreation programs and activities. And then Parks and Recreation Management continues to work on the reorganization and rebranding of the department. Some of the challenges we have is, of course, COVID. We've been planning to do virtual programs for our residents. We're trying to change the perception of the Opelocker Parks Department, and we want to get the community more involved. Some of the short-term goals we have is cleaning and beautifying our parks inside and outside, establishing the Parks and Rec policy manual, doing our inventory so we can make sure we have an accurate count of what we do have, identify the funding opportunities, developing rec software, launching our social media page, and campaigning our new parks logo to the community. The long-term goals that the department do have is, of course, is developing our park master plan, which we have developed a scope for, develop our strategic and our emergency plan, develop a recreation plan, and align all of our parks and recreation department with national standards, and involve FRPA and NRPA agencies.
All right, that concludes your report.
That concludes Parks and Rec report.
Mr. Manager?
I'm here, Mr. Mayor. Give me a moment. Okay, the next department will be the Community Development Department, CRA.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and all of the officers and members of for the City of Opelaca. Gregory Gay, I'm the Director of the Planning and Community Development Department, also serving as the CRA Manager for the Opelaca Community Redevelopment Agency. Some of the things that we wanted to go over as a part of the accomplishments of the Opelaca CRA, as well as with the planning staff, just wanted to highlight, we've had 4 new residential developments that have occurred over the past year. We've had some infill housing that has occurred in the Magnolia North area. 2 twin homes have started under construction, with several more residential development to occur over the next 2 years. And we also had 2 homes built just to the south of the town center area on 1931 and 1951 Superior Street. This is at the site of the former historic King Trunk facility, factory and showroom, which was a historic property. And as a part of giving some type of thought process of being historically significant, those 2 homes did have some type of historical embellishments placed upon them to pay homage to the historical significance. In the industrial area, we've had a significant amount of commercial and industrial development. We have a 7-Eleven UGAS station, which is under construction right now at the corner of 135th Street and the connector. We also have, going through the permitting process as is right now, the Opelocka Gateway retail shops on Northwest 27th Avenue and Opelocka Boulevard. Centerpoint truck parking facility, which is about a 10-acre site on the southwestern area of the city along Northwest 123rd Street and 36th Avenue. We also have a Opelocka fleet truck facility, which is also close to near completion of construction on Northwest 128th Street and 45th Avenue. And finally, this is a project that has been long coming. We have the Opelocka Travel Center, which is a facility for truck truck operations, as well as services with a gas station facility and a convenience store, and possibly another type of small fast food restaurant facility. And this is located on Northwest 135th Street and Sesame Street. Over this year, we've had new comp plan and new zoning ordinance that was adopted in 2015. And we're looking at doing an update as it relates to the zoning ordinance. We are in the process of going through codification with Muni Code. That means that our zoning code, which was adopted in 2015, will be published as a document and be available on site through Muni Code website. This is about a $30,000 investment that is taking place relating to updating and codification of that particular document. We've been also working on updating of the signage code, which we're looking to provide an update to that information between January and February of this year. We're also looking at the peddler's license and the peddler's permitting process, and bringing to you an additional way for motorized vendors will be able to deal and do business within the city of Opelaka, and we're hoping to have that finalized by March of this year. The staff has been working very diligently over the past year and a half to look at opportunities to create what we're calling a tech district or a Tinaga district. That this will be for the northern industrial area of the city, which has been kind of like a hodgepodge area of a lot of different types of industrial and commercial related activities. We're trying to introduce the world of tech to give an opportunity for job creation, as well as new innovative opportunities to tie in job opportunities in the residential area, as well as new business entities for those particular areas of the city. Since the adoption of the land development, we've had approximately 15 new projects that have been developed. We've reviewed approximately 10 site plan approvals. We've had 7 development agreements. We've had 1 land use change and 1 rezoning. We've had 3 alleyway vacations. We've had 7 special exceptions, and we have presently 8 projects that are under construction. As far as new businesses within the city of Opelaka, because we are a crossroads, we do recognize the fact that there are a number of businesses that are within our city. We guesstimate that there are over 3,000 businesses within the city of Opelaka. Just to highlight some of the new businesses that have come online within the last year, we have a Marathon gas station, which is actually the interior it's an existing gas station, but the interior is being converted into a 7-Eleven. This is on 134th Street, Northwest 27th Avenue. And that is nearing completion of this adaptive reuse rehab. Next to that, we have a High Wings restaurant, which is moving into a commercial storefront, which is at approximately 133rd Street and Northwest 27th Avenue. Now, to talk about some things within the CRA. The CRA has been very active over the last year. This year is marking its ninth year of existence. We have been generating a significant amount of what's called tax increment financing, or TIF dollars, that have come into the CRA's coffers, as well as we have been going through a process of reconciliation of the accounts between the city and the CRA relating to how funds have been utilized over the past 9 years due to the creation of the CRA. One of the things we would like to highlight is that we've had a significant increase in our TIF. This year, we've had a TIF, received a TIF of approximately $620,000 from Miami-Dade County. And we're looking at an additional TIF investment of approximately $850,000 from the city of Opelocker. So that gives us a significant amount of dollars to do some major projects. The projects that we've been working on for the past year and a half is we're in the process of the downtown master plan. That was something that was initiated back in the summer of 2020 with the selection process, and we are working with a consulting group called Stantec, which is developing that particular process. This is a $130,000 investment, and we'll be working through the summer months and probably have it complete sometime by August of 2021. We have also initiated a facade improvement program. This is about a $120,000 investment. As it stands right now, we have about 5 properties that have been included in the first phase of this project. We're basically in the permitting phase of getting those projects to move forward. We're hoping that the actual construction work and build out that will be done as far as the facade improvement would take no more than about 3 to 5 months. And we will have a complete new looking businesses within our city. These facade improvements include things like paint, but they also include security, lighting, and signage as an opportunity to improve those particular facilities. Just to highlight a few other things, we are going to be involved with the Historic City Hall Restoration Project. The funding amount has yet to be determined due to an evaluation and assessment is taking place right now. Once that is done, we will have a better opportunity to determine how much funding from the CRA can be used to assist in the completing the restoration of Historic City Hall. We are also looking at investing into our parks and recreation. As the parks director has spoken previously, there is the talk of developing a parks master plan. About approximately 40% of the city's parks are within the CRA area. So that due to the fact that it's a part of the CRA master plan, we're looking at an opportunity to make that particular investment to assist in making park improvements. Finally, we do have to do an update as a part of the 99 findings of the State General Audits report. And one of those items was to conduct a memorandum of understanding. We did enter into a memorandum of understanding between the city of Opelaca and the Opelaca CRA back in March of 2020. And we are in the process of actually doing our annual review of that memorandum of understanding to do an update and making sure that the needs between the city and the CRA are being met. Our goals for going into 2020 and 2021 is to promote additional housing development and commercial development within our city while we sustain our industrial businesses that are already operating. We're hoping that through these redevelopment opportunities that over the next 5 to 7 years, over 500,000 units of residential and commercial developments can be achieved in helping to make the city of Opelaca much more sustainable. We're expecting a 15 to 20% increase in industrial development to occur over the next 2 to 3 years. And we're looking at an opportunity to reevaluate the impact fees and create additional tax incentives for encouraging businesses to come to the city of Opelaca. While we may have had a lot of challenges over the years between COVID and being under the state oversight, we do see that the city of Opelaca is definitely headed in the right direction. And it is a team effort and a team initiative to basically help our city grow and prosper in the upcoming years. That is the presentation from Planning and Community Development along with the Community Redevelopment Agency. If you have any questions or concerns, I will address them at this time.
Any Any questions or comments for the Community Development Director? All right, Mr. Manager, you proceed.
Okay. So the next department is going to be budget. And before we get into the next presentation, we want to do a Reader's Digest version of these presentations. This is to give the commission a taste of what we're presenting. The commission has a full copy of these full presentations. So if there are any highlights, or if the commission has any additional questions, they can ask those questions. Because I'm sure the mayor, as he is going to be drafting his address, may have questions. So I do want to leave some room for the mayor to ask questions during this workshop. So just to keep that as a note. Mr. Anathan.
Good evening. Manager, I wonder if I could go last because a lot of what I talk about also touches other departments. And if I can just bat cleanup, I want to make sure that I don't step on anybody else's toes, if that'd be all right.
Sure. Okay. Next department is going to be police department. Police department.
Mr. Pate, quick question
Okay.
before we continue.
Yes.
I'm actually writing notes. I know you mentioned we can ask questions now. Can we, I would like to digest this. Can I also ask questions later?
Of
Maybe another
course.
day? Okay. I just want to make sure it's not just all today.
No. You can ask questions now, later, whenever you like, Madam Vice Mayor, not a problem.
Okay.
So
thank
just
you.
for, we wanted to make sure that we use this workshop so that staff can be available. And one, that we have this information in front of us first, that staff can provide this to us, and that we can ask and clarify questions. As you know, during our last commission meeting, we debated about and voted to move forward an annual report that would be giving at the end of the year, and especially for new elected officials. And this gives us an opportunity to hear from all of our departments on what was accomplished and how we're moving forward. So feel free at any point in time, if there's anything that you want to ask, this is the time to ask it and to share those ideas so they can be incorporated into the State of the City report. All right, Mr. Manager.
Police department.
Thank you, Manager Pate. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and other colleagues that we have here this evening. If I can just establish a framework, I'll put it into two categories: administration and operations, where I look at just these four branches of accomplishments, followed by goals, challenges, and then since then, some events that have taken place since we've submitted our document. Just a little narrative. 2020, city manager tasked the Miami-Dade Police Department to conduct an assessment of the police department. It was from these findings that the city manager moved forward on the promotion piece that he mentioned earlier with the new lieutenants and the mayor's position as it related to ongoing administrative processing, documentation, vehicle review, facility to help build the organization to industry and best practices. Since then, and before that time, many accomplishments have taken shape. Just to highlight what that list looks like, I'll abbreviate it in bullet format. One would be the revisiting of the organizational chart that included 3 additional detectives to the Criminal Investigations Division. Our CID division, our criminal investigations, successfully were able to close 320 inactive cases since the transition of new management, followed by 200 recent cases being closed to include 35 arrests plus more. An audit was conducted for the police fleet, resulting in 10 vehicles being inoperable, followed by new vehicles to be purchased. Successfully launched the Rapid ID program, which allowed the agency to immediately identify persons by scanning fingerprints, which resulted in more efficiency for that program as well. In August, the street crime unit was developed, made of 5 officers. And I'm going to end that also by highlighting that they've had 344 open cases that resulted in 51 arrests, following with multiple convictions. Next, we have the Shop with the Cop program that brought public acclaim to not only the police department, the community, but was well received by the recipients who participated. It started off where it was a small dollar amount of $75. And once the buy-in was community-wide, that resulted in each of the individual kids having a $200 something card to supplement their Christmas Shop with the Cop experience. Next was the motor unit implementation, which too has been successfully, as you've seen, the work, what that looks like for the new vehicles that are operating throughout our community. This is also followed by the refurbishing of a more professional image, followed by professional training. Uniforms would be the examples of this professional image, followed by the training that has been both administrative, operational, and integrated for better growth and development for servicing and providing a product to our community. These items would also include ballistic shields, gear, helmet, where we're in what I would call a readiness stance, as we've had to prepare for major historical events such as the president joining or coming to our community. This is what it looked like in terms of that readiness, that transitional professional image, and having the ability to do it with productive outcomes. We, as you already know, we've had the false burglar alarms program, which has had its first reading, waiting for the following ones to come. And we're excited about that program as well. We have the crisis intervention mobile assistance program, which is bridged with our CIT instructors, as that too has flourished, where the officers are cross-training with this information and then able to, again, provide better products and service to the community. We capitalize that language and call it community policing. As I have had other conversations with other members that talk about community-oriented government, that's how we build bridges for providing a more proactive crime prevention type of community as well. Going into the goals as it relates to frameworking administration versus operation, we've had the activation of the police substation process take shape. And I have just learned while on this call that we're looking for that to be launched as of January 18th this year. Since then, we've added the 24-hour access to property surveillance cameras at the Glorieta and the Cordova courts apartments. And that has also, we're happy to report, has unfolded just 2 days ago. The 501c3 organization piece still remains to be a goal, as there's a few pieces that need to be put together so that way it is polished before it being displayed. Our challenges leave us with things that are nationally known, as well as for some communities abroad, and that is combating the American drug epidemic, staying above the American police shortage, and recruiting and retention challenges. We're still forthgoing trust between police and community, as we have things that are negative that we do not have much control over, but we're making very much progress on integrating that relationship with our community. I wanted to kind of leave it with a little background as to what the definitions for organizational development consist of. So that way it would be a baseline and serve as a baseline of how our department is reshaping for 21st century performance and 21st century policing. Organizational development, for some of those who are familiar from the academia community, it's about being objective with methodologies to help deploy a systematic approach or integrated approach to working in collaboration with not only the government, schools, community, law enforcement, but those who also just want to be a part of being a shareholder equally to being a stakeholder. The purpose and benefits of it leave us all with team building, managerial management by objective, brainstorming, conscience raising, where everyone is part of the overall process. The process considered identifying the problem, providing a solution, and then having positive results, productive results that represent templates that can be used for ongoing growth and development for the community. Last, for our definition, I would highlight the part that talks about community-oriented government for servicing the community. It's a collaboration that requires all members from the bottom of patrol all the way up to the top of the police organization. In collaboration, we are aware the needs that are being asked of us, and we are diligently trying to continue our efforts to keep that systematic in our approach. I'll pause if there's any questions that may be asked. I am prepared to answer those as well. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for the police department?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Davis?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the major and staff, through the mayor, thank you for all the strides I think that the police department has made in a short window. I'm glad to see that the police substation at Glorietta Gardens is slated to be up at January 18 of this year. Just as soon as today, I actually got a call from a resident who spoke of the violence and just some of the concerns that are still going on in the area despite laws that we passed to provide security and police enforcement to curb crime and increase safety efforts. So I'm glad to see that the police department has moved on this. Mr. Mayor, I do have one question as it relates to the line item that says 501c implementation. If the major could just kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, just want to know what direction or what goal the police department is actually setting up, along the lines of nonprofits to increase the services and safety of our residents. So if the police major could elaborate on that. Thank you.
Yes, I'll give you 3 points with that. And Lieutenant Jenkins is really the search engine behind putting this together here for us. But the 501c, like any organization, number one is going to be a supplement to our financial status of things that we're not able to do. The second part of that is having the ability for credit, if you will. When we look at the 501c, there are businesses or vendors that always ask us for tax ID information. If we have, the FIN numbers. So that kind of is all packaged with that as well. And then the third part is having the ability to cover more ground in terms of resources, applications for resources. And then from that, once those products and services are put together and deployed through the police department, then we're able to capitalize that in a portfolio format and say pretty much the same thing like having a driver's license. We have a license, we have the CDL, we have endorsements, and that for portfolio allows us to continue to be in partnership with federal, state, local, private, public entities. So that way we bring more resources to the community. The bottom line for the end of the day for us is about making products and services available to the community where it's more personalized as well as professionalized. Lieutenant Jenkins, is there anything that you'd like to add to that? As I think that those three are pretty much the framework that we were looking for.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission staff. I just wanted to just add a little bit to it. Some of the things that we would be doing in regards with the 501c3, it would just be different programs that we would like to implement, be it different events that we want to do for the elderly, any type of beautification that we want to do for the community. I give an example, if we have houses and residents that's missing addresses and numbers on their homes. In my opinion, that takes up time for an officer to respond to a location to help to save someone. So we could go to Home Depot, we go to Lowe's, we can ask them, you know, would they like to contribute to this project that we have. Of course, they're going to ask for a 501c3. And I've been there before a couple of years ago, and I was unable to put a lot of programs together because that was my roadblock. They don't mind assisting and helping our city, but if we don't have a 501c3, no one really wants to take that step and donate. So that's definitely why we want to do it, so that we can interact with the community a little bit more. So that's basically what it's all about.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
All right, anyone else?
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams?
thank you all so much for the presentation, especially the police department. I can tell you that the work that you do is tremendous throughout our community. I would like to just throw something out as a goal for the future. I would love to see a police explorers program. If that's something that I think has been discussed. I know years ago I was a part of Opelaka Police Explorers. Yes, I was. Or a PAL or something like that. Police Explorers is a great, just a great program to have children and our youth in the community to understand, and also to build the bench so that the youth may want to continue to pursue policing their own community. And there's nothing like having police that officers within that community stay in the community. So just wanted to throw that out there as a future goal. Thank
Vice,
you all.
Vice Mayor, through the mayor, Vice Mayor.
Yes. Lieutenant Jenkins?
Yes, Lieutenant Perez can speak on the Police Explorer, as he was in charge of it once before, and he's actually currently working on that now, Lieutenant Perez.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that, Lieutenant Jenkins.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, colleagues, members of the dais. I was fortunate enough to benefit from the Police Explorer program myself prior to me joining law enforcement. I completely understand the benefits behind it and everything that it has to offer. So, so you are aware, Vice Mayor, we do have an Explorer Post number already registered with the Boy Scouts of America that I've taken care of. And pretty soon we will be deploying our resources in the community to start recruiting these kids. Start the ride-along program, the state competitions. If you notice at our motor pool, we already have a van for the kids. So it's definitely something that will be part of this police department.
And thank you there, Lieutenant. And if I could also piggyback off of that, Vice Mayor, I too have gone through that program successfully and concur with both lieutenants on the value and the benefit that it has for the community. I thank you for bringing that up in terms of what you would like to see done. And I'm going to infer that you're also going to be volunteering to be a part of that program as we wave that flag going forward. So certainly we appreciate that. And we're very open to any comments or suggestions, that subject or any others. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Taylor?
Also, thank you all for the things that you've done for our city police department. It does not go unnoticed. But I do have a question. I don't know if you can answer this, Mr. Major or the manager. Is there any time in the near future where we will actually get a home for our police department? Like a police station? As opposed to being on the third floor?
Through the mayor.
Mr. Bates?
Commissioner Taylor, we are currently looking through our appropriations package that we're sending up to Tallahassee and looking for funding for a new police department building, either at a different location or at the current location that is currently at. So we are looking at those options currently at the upcoming future. So we are looking at those options currently.
Okay.
Hearing no further question, Mr. Manager, you may proceed.
Next, Department of Human Resources. Human Resources, Ms. Ward.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. As the manager stated, I did present a more comprehensive report to the mayor and commission. However, I would like to highlight a few things that the Human Resources Department was able to champion through the pandemic. As we all know, the world is actually experiencing a national health pandemic, and we have been able to champion what I call a pandemic-proof workforce, where employers all around the nation have been forced to furlough and lay off staff. The city of Opelaka has fortunately been able to maintain its current workforce. While navigating through the pandemic, the Human Resources Department has implemented several safety measures. As Mr. Pate previously mentioned, we've placed sanitizing stations in the high common areas of the building and made sure that employees have access to hand sanitizers, masks, gloves, and equipment that they need to be able to be safe and stay sanitary within the pandemic and to prevent the spread of the virus amongst each other. There has also been temperature monitoring devices placed at the facilities for employees to be monitored as they enter the building, as well as the traffic that comes in and out of the building. Staff has also been trained to disinfect the work areas that are commonly visited by the employees and the visitors of the building, and that become exposed when an employee contracts the virus. There has been a work from home policy that has been implemented, and which allows the employees to have flexibility and hybrid work scheduling to limit the amount of employees that are in the building at one time. Protocols have been established for employees who contract COVID-19 and are exposed in the workplace. Through the pandemic, the Human Resources staff has been working diligently to continue to provide quality internal services to city employees. In doing so, adjustments had to be made to how we normally conduct HR business. Two of the major areas that required adjustments were recruitment and benefits. When it comes to recruitment, there had to be adjustments made in how interviews are being conducted. We have recently diverted to the Zoom platform to conduct most of our interviews, and we have an onboarding contactless method to bring on our new employees for safety measures. We have been fortunate enough to hire 22 permanent full-time employees, make 7 promotions, and also transfer within departments 9 employees throughout 2020. Another area that had to be revised and adjustments had to be made were the benefits section of how we administer employee benefits. Last year, there had to be a virtual open enrollment process. All of the employees were allowed to receive the same one-on-one quality services that we provide via open enrollment, but we had to have that done via the phone and Zoom platform, as opposed to having the physical attending fair that we would normally have. Emphasis has been placed on employee assistance programs, which allow support to our employees with at-home challenges within their families. A lot of our employees have been experiencing challenges at home with the children that are unable to attend school. They have had situations where their family members have been displaced and experiencing challenges, where we would like to place emphasis on the resources that are available to them and the family members that reside at home with them. So we have been placing a lot of emphasis on educating our employees on what services are available through these benefits. Employees have been fortunate enough to continue the level of benefits that we have had been providing to the employees previously. And so we just enhanced the method of communication via a lot of our wellness platforms, and focused a lot on catering to the mental health of our staff during this time. Another thing that I would like to highlight is the increase of salaries for employees that were earning less than $30,000. The mayor and the commission and the city manager were able to allocate funding to allow us to increase all of the salaries of employees who made less than $30,000 per annum to the minimum of $30,000 per year salary. There was also the inception of a coffee and conversation series, in which allow all of the employees an event with the city manager on every quarter of the year to basically discuss employee concerns, to hear management goals, and to assist with building employee confidence in management and improve employee morale. Some of the goals that we have set for 2021 are a new employee mentoring program, as well as an employee development program, to be able to allow the Human Resources Department to support employees in their development goals, and to have a more focused relationship on new employees and their goals as development with the city. We would actually like to create an employee resources lab within the Human Resources Department to ensure that all of the employees have access to a computer on a regular basis, and to recreate our conference room into an employee training room. The employee intranet is actually 85% complete and will be introduced to staff within the next 60 days to allow paperless and self-service options to be able to be administered independently by our city employees. I did submit a report to the mayor and commission, and if anybody has any questions, I can entertain them at this time.
Any questions for HR? Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mrs. Ward, I just have one question as it relates to the at work from home policy.
Yes.
I know that most of our policies typically span to all our employees in a universal sense. But how does that policy affect direct service positions, such as those within the code enforcement and public works department?
Commissioner Davis, unfortunately, those policies do not relate to employees who are required to have those type of positions that involve working with the community and customer service-based type positions out in the field. Those positions are only able to be filled by essential staff that has been designated and provided with the laptops that are able to work remotely from an electronic standpoint as teleworking. Unfortunately, the individuals that you mentioned aren't eligible for that program.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. And the reason I asked was because I noticed, I guess, a lag in service delivery in those departments, and was just wondering how, I guess, the policy, if any, affected that process. So, thank you, Mrs. Ward, for clearing that up.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Ward, for all that you do for the employees of Opelaka. I actually wanted to have a similar question as Commissioner Davis. Would like to know, for those employees that are working from home, is there a check-in with the department heads? What's the procedures of accountability for those employees to know that the work is being done? Also, are these employees, did they have to provide a specific reason for working from home, such as childcare or health risk? And if those health risks were established, did they have to bring in a doctor's note, or did they just request to work from home?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, actually, in order to participate in our work from home program, the city manager has to initially authorize it, and it has to be proposed by the department director in consultation with the employee that is requesting the leave. For the most part, we have been implementing hybrid work schedules, so no one is actually permitted to work entirely from home. So with that being said, the manager does have strict accountability measures through the department director, where they are required to maintain constant communication with the employees that are working from home, and to ensure that whatever projects are supposed to be working on is being met. It's actually the responsibility of the department director to ensure that a list is provided to the city manager as to what tasks are going to be completed during the time of approval for the work from home.
Thank you. I would just hope, and this is probably through Mr. Pate, the city manager's office, that there is a measure of accountability. And if those department heads are providing tasks, that deadlines, dates are given, and that there is some type of check-in system with the department heads. And I would hope that that's is happening.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Commissioner Taylor.
In regards to the work from home, like she was stating, is that 100%, or you talked about a hybrid, or is that work in office 3 days, off 2? How does that, or half days? What does that look like?
Yes, actually, it depends on what the department director proposes to the manager for approval, but for the most part, it is a 1 day on, 1 day off scheduling. As I mentioned, there is no employee that is 100% working from home. We're just trying to limit the amount of employees in the office at one time.
So more like a staggered method?
Yes, there's more like a staggered method.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ward, for your report. I only have one question. I know last year during the State of the City address, we made mention of doing complete evaluations of our employees, which hasn't been done in many years. And right now I'm seeing only 77% completed. What's been going on with the delay in terms of completing the evaluations for employees? And is there certain departments that are not submitting them? Can you give a little more detail about the status of these evaluations?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm actually very impressed with the level of responsiveness that we have received as regards to the employee evaluations. And the reason that they're not at 100% is because at the time that I submitted the report to you, the evaluations for December were not due yet. So we're just receiving them now. And also with the transition and management with the police department and a few of the other departments, there has been a slight delay in receiving the evaluations, but we're almost there, and we anticipate a full evaluation for the year of 2020.
Okay, by when?
We're following up on what we've received now, and what we usually do is send out an email and correspond with the departments that have not responded in regards to that. So I would have a better answer by the end of next week.
Thank you. I look forward to reporting to our citizens that we have done a complete assessment evaluation of where we are is considering the operational audit and many things that's been going on throughout the city. This is something of high importance that I think it is necessary for us to ensure that people know that we are steadily evaluating and improving our employees to get the best performance to the people of Opelaca. So thank you very much, Ms. Ward.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams?
just a quick question about the evaluations, and I'm only asking because I'm in the middle of conducting evaluations myself in my own job. Are the evaluations placed initially done in an evaluation system? I guess that's question one. And if those I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And employees that are, and I'm assuming there's a scale. I have not seen the evaluation system, but I'm assuming there's some type of scale or standards, or if an employee does not meet specific standards, are they given, is there some type of fail-safe, you know, a recommendation, training before we move into termination? If I'm I'm guessing this is the form for me to know these things and ask.
Yes, Vice Mayor. There is an evaluation system that is conducted by initially the employee's direct supervisor in collaboration with their department director. And if there is any level of unsatisfactory performance, there is what's called a performance improvement plan that is produced for each employee, and it identifies what areas of improvement are needed and any resources that we can provide to assist the employee as far as training and things like that, job shadowing, and more focused and centralized areas of weaknesses that the employees may have. So I always use an employee evaluation system as a method to assist an employee with improving a behavior as opposed to providing any disciplinary or adverse employee action.
And the first question, is that completed in a system, a database system, and not handwritten, or some type of, how's the evaluations completed? How are they?
Well, right now it's on a paper-based system, but we have been working with our payroll and human resource information system provider. They have an electronic system that we have been reviewing demos for, and we plan to incorporate the cost for that system in our proposed budget for the upcoming year.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. As it relates to the employees' performance evaluations, I know as an incentive, oftentimes is based on merit, and oftentimes those incentives could also be financially tied. Have we given any consideration, given the fact that we've just given raises, several promotions, and I guess other activities that are based on employee merit? Have we given consideration to the recent evaluations and looking at ways that we can, I guess, bring our employees up to the cost of living standards? Mrs. Ward?
Yes, Commissioner Davis. As far as the cost of living, I know that the manager is working with our budget administrator to implement or for consideration a cost of living increase in the near future. However, we are planning to attach a merit-based performance system with our evaluations once the city is in a better fiscal position. I don't know if the manager has anything that he would like to add to that. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Taylor?
Ms. Ward, I do have a question in regards to the evaluations as well. The evaluations is done yearly?
Well, yes, the evaluations are usually conducted on an employee's anniversary date. Initially, it's conducted after their 90 days of probationary employment, and then every year thereafter. But if an employee changes positions, that new anniversary date becomes the marker of when they're evaluated.
Okay, then my next question would be, would you be open to considering doing mid-year evaluations? That not so much as penalty, but almost like a progress report. Because don't wait the 12, so you don't have to wait the 12 months to tell me I'm doing bad. You can let me know mid-year. That way I have time to actually get to that standard.
Yes, and we do ask that the department directors share any performance concerns prior to an evaluation so that those concerns are addressed to, enable the employees to receive satisfactory evaluations.
But is that something that you can implement like mid-year, like it happens in June? I don't know. I'm just throwing a date out there. So
Yes, it's definitely something we can consider.
Okay.
In light of the operational audit, I'm glad to see the interest on the commission in regards to this, because the evaluation and performance is tied to the efficient and optimization use of our tax dollars, and it's our largest expense as a city. I would like to request a full report provided to the commission on our performance system, detailing out what the system is used, what's the evaluation system, the scale, the standards that are used, whether that be in different departments, and dates, and even the possibility of what we can do to improve it. I've heard comments about so far about doing a standard one evaluation either annually on a certain date or mid-year on a certain date, so that we can continue to evaluate the performance throughout the city of Opelaka. So if we can get that at a time in which the commission can review it, so that we can decide upon what we may want to do in order to improve our system moving forward. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next department is going to be building and licensing. And then from here, the next departments are going to be introduced by the assistant city manager. And I will be sending the commission an email in regards to the reason why the city manager will be introducing the next departments moving forward. But the next department will be buildings and licensing. Mr. Abia.
All right, but I do want to get answer to the question about the request for the report. We'll be able to get that to us.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. What timeline would you like to see?
If you can state the timeline at the upcoming commission meeting so that we know, give you some time to talk to the HR director, coordinate when we can get that information. That'll be very helpful.
I can give you a timeline by that time period. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Does anybody have any other questions from HR?
No, sir, you can proceed.
The next department would be buildings and licensing. Mr. Abia.
Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Honorable Commissioners. My name is Danny Lovia. I am the building official for the city of Opelaca. We issue licenses and certificate of use to all businesses that are operating in the city of Opelaca. We also review plans and are certain that they meet the Florida Building Code requirement. And they follow and they comply with the ordinance of the city of Opelaca, as well as the Dade County Code. We currently have two of us, myself and Mr. Ashad Vikar, as the permanent employees in the department. The others are part-time employees, the inspectors. Okay, but then we have two clerks. One of them is a licensed clerk, and the other one is a permit clerk. but they both are cross-trained and do both licensing and as well as building. We have been challenged all year round because of the COVID. We had the foresight and already knew that if we if we follow through by shutting the department or closing the department at any point in time, we will be inundated by the planned processing process. So we worked straight through the pandemic. And we were the only building department in the entire Dade County that was open straight through the whole process till now. And we have done that successfully without endangering the life of any of our employees. The part-time employees are also employees of other municipalities. And those are only electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. Okay. So there are 3 of them that come from outside, but the rest of us the rest of the functions are shared between me and Mr. Ashat Vikar down here in the building. From what I just told you, you can actually classify the building official as a glorified permit salesman for the city. And we have done very, very well. This year, we are from September to this moment, despite the challenge that we lost one of the permit clerks for September and didn't hire one for 6 months. We managed to exceed the limit that we've ever been. We've done better than we've ever done in the previous years during this pandemic. I'm not going to mention the amount because the budget gentleman will give you a highlight on that. But the biweekly reports of the city that we give to the city manager can be total up from September 30th to October 1 of this year, and up to this moment, we have far exceeded our expectations. We've been lucky. You've heard the development that has been occurring, as was mentioned to you by community development. All those new projects have been are being reviewed by the building and licensing department, from the intake of the plans to the review of all the different departments and to the issuing of the permits. And so it has been a successful year, but the 2 permit clerks are inundated and they are very challenged. In order not to burn them out, we will need some help. If this pattern of development that we are seeing in the city continues. Another thing is the method of storage. The method of storage of the data or the information that we're getting from the general public. We would like to scan them and put them in the record as we issue the permit. But the pressure and the number of people these 2 permit clerks have to serve are so much that it has not allowed them enough time for them to put in everything they needed to put in. So on that note, I have met the request for an additional assistance. But the city, you have the sailboat cove that came on with about 23 new buildings. and about 112 units, all processed by this department. When I mean process, we're talking about roofing, windows, okay, plumbing, electrical. So we have been very, very busy. Then you have the commercial building for natural vitamins. Okay, that is a very big, warehouse, a very big warehouse, almost a fifth of, I think it's about a quarter of Amazon. So it's very big. If you are out there, commissioners, you might want to you can stop by and look at what you have there. It's a very big, massive building. And then you have the 4 new commercial buildings, the Ironwood Comment Center that Mr. Gay mentioned to you, have been processed. The first two buildings have been processed and completed by us. Along with that, we have also completed the business center that we have been working on for Mr. Frank Vegas for a very long time. We were able to bring that to completion. We have fully issued him the license. I think the only reason he doesn't have the license in his hand is that he's contesting the impact fee, but that is done outside that is done by the planning and zoning. So they will take care of him in due time, and we will be able to issue the permit. So overall, it's been a very prosperous year for us. But we were also lucky to have been given a part-time person to assist with the minimum housing. But the minimum housing is not going to be it's not a part-time position. You have enormous problems in the city of Opelaca with existing buildings. Existing buildings have issues from the complaints to the flooding to so many other things. So existing building the minimum housing position is not able to handle all of the complaints from the position as a part-time employee. And so we have to revisit that, and we also asked for a request for a help on that. We were rated for the building code effectiveness grading system of the state. And on a scale of 1 to 10, and the 1 being the highest, we were number 2. We were grade 2 for residential, for industrial, and we were 3 in residential properties. So we are a very, very strong department. But as for licensing, we've had a little drawback in the sense that prior to now, we used to have the freedom to select who we send to Durham for review based on what they're doing. If you're running a restaurant, we know that you need grease trap. There will be some grease going into the system, so we send you to Durham. If you're doing a major demolition, we know you need asbestos report, so we send you to them for asbestos evaluation. Recently, they want to review absolutely every single thing that comes out of Opelaca. That's the way they want it, and we have had several meetings, and we are still working on it. I have this weekend to prepare some documents for which I will send to the city manager for approval, and then and then wait for a feedback on or arrange for a meeting with them. But overall, the building department is doing well. we need an update on the computer, the SunGuard system. We should have been able by now to make sure that everything that we need to run the building department is available to us in the SunGuard, and we have received the necessary training for it. All through the year, we will have either IT is inundated. Actually, it's only 2 people in IT, so they have been trying everything they can to assist us. But I think we need more training on this system, at least for us on the permit fee computation through the system. But overall, we have done very well. So I will leave it there and open up and allow you guys to ask the questions. Yes,
Any
I
questions
am
for?
sorry, just before I close, we, the building department of the city of Opelaca, we're given an award by FEMA, and for, okay, the city of Opelaca successfully participates in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System. And we were awarded this, and this allowed the city to get 5% reduction in their flood insurance. So what we thought we let you know as commissioners so that we get the necessary accolades and applause that you may give to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abia.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Mr. Abia, maybe I misunderstood. Did you say that you guys were overwhelmed?
Well, we have a lot of work. Yes, we are inundated. Yes, when it comes to licensing.
So you're requesting help? What are you?
Yes.
In what manner? In what manner? What does that help look like?
He filled out the forms that we were supposed to fill out and send it into our bosses for. But it's not. But when I approached the budget gentleman, and he says that it's not in the budget.
Do you understand his question, his answer? Could you repeat your answer, Mr. Abia? Yeah, the specific question was, what exactly do the department need not to be overwhelmed?
We need an assistance. Somebody. Okay, there are two ladies receiving, intake officers receiving and issuing permits, and as well as licensing. There should be another person that is assisting in the recording, in either scanning all the documents and recording and placing it in the system. If they are doing all of these all at the same time, you would have a line stretching all the way down to.
So you just need like a processor. That's what you're asking for, or a secretary or something of sort.
Administrative assistant, secretary.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Or permit clerk, or another permit clerk who can substitute for them. Right now, as we are sitting here, when one of them falls sick, the other one is inundated, practically inundated and paralyzed with so much work. So we need one more.
Thank you, Mr. Abia. Commissioner Taylor, I believe you had a question for the manager.
Yeah, he talked about not being in the budget. I wanted to know, is that something that we can actually provide for them? Because he said they're a 2-person department. Mr. Manager?
This is Mr. Ellis. I'm sorry I'm not on video, but I'm out sick today, and I'm just stepping in for the manager. That issue has been brought to our attention by Mr. Abia, and we discussed this several times. It was not in our initial budget. And as he said, our budget director right now has said it's not in the budget, but it's not saying that we cannot try to get it processed and find a way to assist Mr. Abia. And that's something that we've been talking about. We have just not finalized what would what that would look like and what that would be because of our budgetary restraints at the moment.
Is there another department that can help assist that? Can the management office lend someone or something like that?
We have provided assistance to Mr. Abia apartment on several occasions, but I will look into that. What's happening is that the people that we probably would have utilized from finance departments or utility, they're all working on our audit at the moment. But I could probably give you a concrete answer on that question at the early part of next week, once I reevaluate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams.
earlier, Mr. Gay presented on 5 commercial property developments, and I see how they're connected to the building and license. My question is specifically for the truck parking facility. I don't see it on page 37, but maybe it is there. I'm just wondering, can we, especially if we're giving licenses to companies. Recently I took a tour of the city and we need another trucking company like we need more dumping. I mean, it's just trucking companies and parking facilities and how do we make, if we're giving these companies more licenses and approving them, what are the benefits? What are we getting out of? They're destroying the roads, potholes everywhere with large trucks. I'm just wondering why do we continue to approve and with so many trucking companies or parking facilities for trucks?
Mr. Abir, can you answer that question, please?
That is not a question for me, madam. It would be for the zoning, the community development, because whatever they approved, all I will do is make sure that they build it in accordance with the Florida Building Code. Whatever zoning approves and said you can be there legally, I have no authority whatsoever to stop you. But what I would do is make sure you build it according to code. You comply with the city code, the county code, and the Florida Building Code. So that question is rightly for Mr.
Gay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
In other words, so let me explain something. They come to the zoning department and they present their case. Zoning department takes them to planning council.
Thank you, Mr. B. I believe the question was directed to Mr. Gay by the city manager's office. So, Mr. Gay, could you please answer?
Yes. To piggyback off of Mr. Abia's statement, you have to take consideration how this city is zoned, how it operates, and what it particularly caters to. When you look at the zoning code itself, almost 50% of the city is zoned industrial. So you're going to have industrial businesses come to our city. That is just by the nature of how Opelaca has evolved over the years. If you want to see different types of businesses come to our city, you have to change zoning, or you have to change the land use. That's something that can be initiated by the city, but in most cases, when you're dealing with zoning and land use changes, those are usually initiated by developers because they see an opportunity to do something maybe a little bit different, and the land value literally dictates what type of businesses will come to our city, and they pretty much come to us, make a plea or make a request for a zoning change or a zoning modification. We bring all of that information to you as a part of the process, and once you approve it, that project is allowed to move forward, and that's where Mr. Bia picks it up and takes it through the permitting process. But you have to look at the way the city is made up. In the city, 25% I can tell you now, 25% of the city is the airport. So you can take at least a good square mile out of the 4.2 square miles that we are. You can take at least a good square mile out of the equation because we have no say on that. For the remaining 3.2 square miles, 40% of it is industrial. That is the way it's zoned. That's the way it's operated. At least since I've been on this earth, and this has been 57 years. So I've always known Opelaka to be a very heavily industrial and logistical community. The balance of it, you're looking at 25 to 30% residential, 10% commercial. That's the makeup of our city. So when you want to see something different, you have to give incentives or give some type of reduction in impact in order to see a different type of development to occur. Now, with them being 40% of our zoning, they're also a great percentage of our tax base. So the taxes is what you're getting from the industrial area.
Through the mayor.
That's the end of my question.
Yeah, he's going to, you can go, Vice Mayor.
Oh, okay. And this is for the commission. I'm thinking possibly in the future, if we can have a discussion or think about legislation where we're providing a special tax for roadway development for roadways that are above and beyond the size of the road. And I know that a lot of these trucking companies, and I do understand what Mr. Gay is saying, the zoning of businesses commercial. However, I don't think, and I don't believe that they are getting the proper special tax for the roadway because of such large trucks coming through. And if that was possible, then the city wouldn't have to pay so much for constructing or reconstructing roads that are constantly being demolished by these trucks. That's future legislation. Thank you.
Anything else for building?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
I guess not for building, but in regards to what Vice Mayor was saying, is there roadway taxes for those trucking companies?
I can tell you no.
Roadway what?
It was really a question for Mr. Gay.
Okay.
But I was just commenting on.
Yeah, specifically, I believe the question is whether or not we have special taxing districts for certain industrial areas, especially those that deal with, that have high capacity trucks going through. And if not, why not? And are we in the process of developing that?
That again is for Mr. Gay, but we do have impact fee.
Mr. Manager, Mr. Gay, someone want to answer
Yes.
the question, please?
Mr. Gay, you can answer the question, sir.
Yes. I hear Mr. Avia talking about impact fees. You must understand, impact fees are only charged for new development. Once that development is done and that impact fee is paid, it is done. So we would have to look at some other alternative, consistent type of income or funding stream, either through a special tax, as the Vice Mayor stated, that will be something that will be coming in on an annual basis, because the impact fee is a one-time payment and it's only geared from new development. So when a new development is built, once it's done, that impact fee is done. That's not something that's going to continue to come in. The only portion of it that continues to come in is the ad valorem taxes.
If I could offer some insight to this problem.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Austin.
In our future development of our roadways, which would be rolling out in succession with our drainage improvement projects, the intent is to develop the roadway for the purpose that's being used, especially in the commercial areas. That roadway would be built to the standards of heavy trucking or equipment usage. And that will be prorated along all of the businesses that utilize that roadway. They would have to pay a prorated portion of to fund the roadway development. And that would be going forward as needed for repavement of the roadway when necessary, as well as the build up for the initial use. If that answers your question.
You need the approval from them, from the commission.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Mr. Austin, thank you. Question, are you saying that is a future grant or are we saying that would be a tax?
That would be a special assessment to the businesses that utilize the roadway, and it will be brought before the commission for approval before proceeding.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
I already asked my question, but my question was going to be, is that going forward, or is this to include everyone that's already, even the ones that are already in the city? Because you talked about future businesses for that particular tax that you want to.
It will address where we need to build new roadways or redevelop a roadway to meet the usage of that area. That would go for current and future businesses.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Special taxing districts are something that, from what I've been hearing from staff, takes quite a bit of development to put in place. It takes assessments to assess what the cost would be, to reach out to those local property owners and notify them. And it's something that's taken the time. And from what I understand, our stormwater management plan and citywide assessment is a part of that process. It's one of the steps in that process. Is that correct, Mr. Austin or Mr. Gay?
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
So I do.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So this is something that that's been on the conversation for many years. However, I do believe us as a commission need to stay on top of staff and the manager to get that done, so that it is put forth. Right, once we get that citywide assessment, we make sure we are pulling the wheel as a commission, because it is something that we have to vote upon and push in order to make sure it gets done. All right, anything else for building a license? I have a few questions, Mr. Abia. First of all, you mentioned some awards. You mentioned that we were number 1, number 2, number 3, but I do not see that in this report in front of us. Could all those accolades that you mentioned in your report today, could you put that in writing for us so that it can be a part of the consideration for the State of the City addressed to the public?
Thank you. Yes, we will.
Also, I see on here in number 5, it talks about the SunGuard system. Is that the electronic permitting system that we've been trying to put in place for many years that hasn't been done yet?
It is. That's what we are doing. We have electronic permitting system. They are submitting DISC for major projects. For mom and pop that is coming in and trying to build his fence and driveways and so forth, for you to have the electronic system for them, you're going to have to take that set of plan, that little survey they're bringing to you, scan it into the system, and that would be the storage method. Okay, but so that's what we are trying to do, yes. But we don't have enough manpower to be able to do that and still deliver the results in a timely manner.
I didn't quite understand. So do we have a online electronic system where we can go online to submit requests permitting information currently in the city of Opelika?
No, sir. We have not developed
So
up to
I'm gonna
that
be,
point yet.
hold on, Mr. B.
That will be,
Mr. Bia,
yes, sir.
I just want to get these questions. So, are we in the process of that? And if so, when will that be complete?
I think I will leave that for IT to give us the answer because I don't control that.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor,
IT,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ellis?
Yeah, IT is going to do the next presentation. Would you like to move on into this presentation now?
Not yet. So I'll wait till they come
Okay.
up. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So I heard the concern about being overwhelmed, and I know that the filing system in the building department definitely needs improvement in that regard. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that can be taken care of. But one thing that I did see that was missing from this buildings and licensing report is the minimum housing inspector. We have had some very challenging issues in regards to the living conditions of our residents. And we advocated to put in a budget for a minimum housing standard officer. I believe that person was hired last year. And at this moment, I don't see a report on what they've done in the targeted areas. And this is very near and dear to, I know many of us on this day is heart because we've all been getting quite a few calls and emails in regards to housing conditions in many of the various apartment complexes. And we would like to know what we're doing as a city to enforce our minimum housing standards. So where is the report on the minimum housing situation in the city of Opelika, minimum housing standards in the city of Opelika?
Based on the fact that the gentleman works part-time, he did bring a report in when I called him, but I didn't have the opportunity to read the report, so I could not feed the mayor with things that I have not approved.
So can we get that written report?
Yes.
So when we'll be able to get that to us?
On Monday, he will be here and we'll go over it with him and then we will make the adjustment and submit it.
Right. Thank you. Is there any other questions, comments for Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to Mr. Bia, as it relates to the fee schedule for the Building and Licenses Department, when was the last fee schedule updated?
Ordinance 15-13 is what we have, which was in 2015.
2013. Okay, so are we still, because I saw back in 2013 was when the last update happened. Are we still looking at, I guess, updating that fee schedule, being that we, that it needs, it's time for an update, I guess?
We can add to it, but it looks very, it looks comparable to other municipalities.
The proposed fee schedule that was never, I guess, voted upon. What was the problem, if you can remember, at the time in 2013 when the schedule was first proffered?
Are we saying 2013 or 2015? 2013, yeah, you're correct. You're correct. That's 15-13, yes. We are using it, so it was correct. It was approved.
Okay, so that's the current fee schedule, the one that was proposed in 2013, the draft that was proposed. That's the current fee schedule that we're operating on.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to request a report of that schedule in its entirety. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Manager, can you make
Yes,
sure
sir.
get a update on when we will be able to receive the report as Commissioner Davis requested at the upcoming commission meeting?
Yes, sir. I will get with Mr. B on Monday, and we'll have something for you on Wednesday.
All right, Mr.
Update on
Grice,
Wednesday.
thank you. Mr. Grice, did you hear that? Okay, that's good. All right. We'll make sure Mr. Grice has that on his list of items requested in this meeting. All right. Any other further questions? All right, Mr. Manager, next.
The next speaker will be Mr. Nelson Rodriguez from IT.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. This evening, if I may, I'm going to go over a few sections on my report, which includes our what I call routine projects that have been completed, some major projects that have been completed, some that are currently underway, and the rest of the projects and goals we have for the remainder of the year. Mr. Mayor, I will address the question for building department at the very end, if that's okay.
Thank you.
So during 2020, of course, we all dealing with COVID. The IT department had to rapidly respond and get some type of work from home program set up and enabled. And you know, we feel very, very fortunate that we were able to do that pretty quickly for the employees that we could make those accommodations for. But from that, a lot of different ideas came along and improvements to daily job functions were identified. So one of the things we had, one of our, what I like to call routine projects we completed was a consolidation of internet providers. We had 3 different internet providers that were constantly going out for outages in the area. As we know, Comcast is not a very stable in this area. When Comcast goes out, our internet is out, our emails are out. So we had to kind of address that thing. So we went down from 3 different providers down to 1 on a fiber-based network, and so far it has been incredibly stable. So, and that, of course, it's also the cost savings along with that. We did a lot of upgrades to our city infrastructure as far as network switches, servers, and our software-defined networks along the city. But again, that's another routine project. We did install and take on brand new software packages that are new to the city. One is a citywide work order management software, which was to as a resolution to one of the 99 audit questions from the state of Florida. And I will get into more details in just a moment about that. And along that, we also began using Docusign, which is facilitate the signing of different documents throughout the city with, you know, less face-to-face contact. Another routine project that was completed was something that we built into our current document management system, which is Laserfish. We, the city, did not have any type of way to track the expiration of contracts. Nothing. Unless one employee had it on their desktop or a calendar reminder, we had nothing. So knowing that the contracts were already stored electronically, what we did is we built in notifications into the system. Well, with the date, the system knows, hey, it's 90 days out. Your reminder, this contract expires 90 days. 60 days out, if nothing is done, 60-day reminder. 30-day, day of, and expired. That is currently completely built out, and it's being implemented right now in conjunction with the clerk's office. So that is something that I think the entire city will benefit from. Those are the routine. More major projects the major project that were completed is the redesign of the website. As we know, the city had a website that looked its age. It was probably developed in about 2009, and it kind of stayed stagnant through last year. We right before the pandemic, we had a group of residents and employees, and we got together and kind of came up with the ideas of what we wanted to see, look, feel, placement of images, and we came together with the current design. It's not fully done. There is still additional customizations to departments that we're working on, and some additional pictures and just a better aesthetics to showcasing our actual city and departments at work. But we did include something that I thought was good. Is very a lot of online services have not been available on the website. great source of information, but the site is not functional, what's really the point? So the pandemic actually made us kind of speed this process up. Since the new website has come along, we've added board applications, public records requests, special vendor permits, vendor applications, amnesty program applications, special master hearing requests, COVID-19 complaints, anonymous crime reporting, flood notifications, and verification of availability of water and sewer. Those are all new, and I can tell you that every single one of those categories are being utilized, if not daily, on a weekly basis. So as we add more, I will definitely be providing analytics to the manager in my report, so we know exactly what's going on the site, and where we actually could use further improvement. Another major project was the upgrade of the city's telephone system. The city had about 4 different systems at different locations with different types of technology powering it. We have now consolidated one phone system for the entire city, whether it be a park with 2 phones, or Sherbundi, or Public Works, or City Hall, or the police. We're all under one umbrella. The beautiful thing about the system is that the phone can operate anywhere. It can operate in someone's house. They can operate off an air card in the event of an emergency, which is instrumental to one of the in-project process that I'll actually go ahead and speak about now. One of the projects is currently in process is this is our work order management system. We needed to identify a way to identify internal work orders. If a department needs something from Public Works, that gets assigned to Public Works, it gets assigned to an employee, and there's accountability with notification to the supervisor if it's not being done. And if it's escalation to the manager, if the director is not being held accountable. Every department, I know this works in IT. We've been using a work order system for at least for the last 10 years. It keeps everyone accountable. It keeps everyone aware of the work that's in front of them. So bringing something like this to the entire city, it's going to be wonderful. But again, it's the accountability that's actually going to hold everyone to their work. So when we were with Mr. Austin, when we were looking for something that the city could actually use, we had an idea. It's like, this is great if we find a work order system that works, but we wanted something a little more. We want to give the public the ability to send their own work orders to us. So we partnered with a company called See Click Fix. And what they do is their work order management system, it's cloud-based, but also has a mobile app. So in the coming month and a half, the city will have its own mobile app on the Apple App Store and in the Android store. And this app will allow the public to make their own request of the city. This will all be based on different categories. So if you want to report a pothole, you can go on your phone, take a picture, use the GPS, send that in. Staff will be made accountable. That resident will be getting updates on the progress of that pothole. If the staff does not fix the pothole or not responding to the resident, that gets escalated, just like the internal ones, all the way until it reaches the city manager, until we have to keep that communication back, open with the resident. So we have a bunch of categories that we've kind of built the structure out for. I will tell you, we're not going to put out 20 categories at first. This will probably be an ongoing progress. We'll start with potholes, flooding notifications. We have a long list. The big user of this will be probably Public Works. I have had interest from Parks and Recreation to showcase our parks on this mobile app, services that are available. There's just endless possibilities, but having a one app for all this information, I think it's just going to be great. That same app, again, will be available on the website if you don't have access to a phone. So you still will be able to make the request online. Another major project in progress is the access control for City Hall. That's something that we spoke about a while. The physical installation is currently done. We're about 50% done with the programming, and we hope to be done in the next about 10 days. Everybody will have an access card to gain access to all the secure locations at City Hall. Once that's complete, we're moving on to Public Works and our parks facilities. The idea is to keep all non-public areas secure. And finally, it's a project that you all are very aware of, is the Office 365 program that was recently approved by the commission. That is right now with the state pending their approval, so we can submit that PO and get that project going. These are all projects that will be completed in no more than 90 days, all three of those that I just spoke about. The remaining of the subjects I want to talk about is what we have left for the fiscal year 2021. One thing we want to upgrade now is the Wi-Fi of all of our public spaces. We had an initial limited Wi-Fi project at our parks, City Hall. They're about 10 years old, those locations. We now have new internet access at all of our parks. So we will be bringing both Wi-Fi access inside and to the public spaces. Another project that I'm very excited about is that we will be bringing a Parks and Recreation management software to Parks and Rec to manage day-to-day operations, to manage inventory, to manage ticketing, to manage, I don't want to take away any spotlight from Parks and Rec, but it's something that we're working together on, and it's something that it's, I think, essential for parks to even move forward. So I'm really excited about that. We're actually in the last stage of completing a 5-year IT strategic plan that will be submitted to the manager, detailing the next 5 years of where we want IT to be for the city of Opelaca. Another project we have this year is we want to upgrade the commission chambers. We want to move some remote cameras, mount them on the wall, and remove this setup here, and have a large-scale interactive display here. We don't have to set this up and it to be kind of just roll it out and have that here for the commission. We also are looking right now at a third-party network security evaluation, with cybersecurity being one of the major threats. We want to hire a third-party vendor to do penetration testing on our network, both from the inside, evaluate security from our employees, and provide training. It's a daily attack with that, so I think that's extremely important. My last upcoming project that I have is to continue the ERP selection process for final recommendation for fiscal year 22. So as we've heard in many of the audits, there are many features of the financial software that are no longer up to date. I am the #1 supporter to remove our current software and look for something that fits the needs of this growing city. This has not been done up to this time because we are trying to catch up on our audits. In conversation with finance, the finance consultant said it's probably best, and I agree 100% with her, that we catch up on our audits with the information that's in there before we move it to something new. We don't really want to move that data while it's being audited until we're up to date. It was said by the billing department that, and the mayor had a question, is the permit application online? It is not. When we select a financial system, we want to select what is called a community system, and a community system involves your code enforcement, your building department, your zoning department. We want to make sure that when we select a finance program, that it can communicate with our community software. We don't want to purchase one and then find out it cannot communicate. So, for example, when we select a permitting software, and they submit those permits online, and they make those payments online, that information, those payments flow right into our financial system. So there's no break in communication. I would hate to purchase something and not have the proper research, or have to go back and make some kind of special alteration to kind of make it work. We don't want to make things work. We want things that work from the beginning. There's no real space for failure. So Mr. B is correct. The online permitting is not online, and probably will not be online until we upgrade our software in fiscal year 22. That is a project that will be spearheaded by IT, but it will involve every single department in the selection process, implementation process. But I will say that IT is in charge of automating the permit fee calculations for the building department and their system. They're not a paper. They do have a system for it. It just doesn't have a public-facing portal. Currently, right now, I am programming hard coding the fees for permits into the system to eliminate any type of human error in calculation of fees. So if you come for a building permit, the the clerk will enter whatever categories the fees are based on, and the system will provide you the fee. So I think that's very important and just consistent throughout the board. That really concludes my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the IT Director, Mr. Rodriguez? Vice Mayor Williams?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez Gonzalez?
Rodriguez, Gonzalez. No, it's
Oh.
Rodriguez. No, I'm just kidding.
I just called you Nelson.
That's
all the time.
I prefer that.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. You actually read my mind when you said mobile app. I had that like ready here to ask you for future goals. So thank you so much. I have a saying. It's hypothetical. How do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And I can tell you, thank you for bringing the city up to the digital. We were probably in a digital divide, but bringing us up to digital code. And I do know that you have very audacious goals for the city, but thank you for what you have done to get us to where we are. I would like and I guess the question, and I'm sure this is a lot, is there a future plan for something similar to a portal for the entire, or is that what you were mentioning? Is that similar to what you were saying?
That's exactly.
That is exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, I would love to see a portal, a one-stop shop for everything. I know that's a lot. I do know that's a lot to manage. But that would be amazing if we can get to that point. But again, that's future goals.
We will accomplish a lot of that with the app, though. I will tell you that. The
Yes,
app,
of course.
You will be set, the app will be a one-stop shop mobile. Now, the idea is to incorporate all that on the website and incorporate an employee's access on the website to the project that Mr. Ward's working on for human resources. And again, it's just, like you said, it's one step at a time, but I think we're making pretty giant leaps right now. And I think, 2021, next year we'll be seeing, what we actually done. And
Thank you again, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Rodriguez. My thought process is I'd rather you do one thing great than a lot of things good. And I think that's something that I think we should adopt as every department. And so far, everything I've seen so far has been pretty great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Taylor?
Okay, on the third page, page 40, you talked about a call center. Is that already live?
That is my apologies. I skipped that over.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So the call center, right? So the call center idea came up right after COVID, right? Where we had citizens we had to serve, but we had half of our employees home, and Commissioner Davis said, I'm seeing some slow responses. So the commission actually said, it would be nice to have a call center, kind of a one number to call if you're lost. If you want to call, maybe it's on the weekend, but you want to get a live person. So this C-Click-Fix app that we're getting, this work order app, right? It's half of what we need, because it'll be able to take these calls and put them somewhere, one central location. Now, the other part is the phone system, because we can take this phone home, have people home, on call over the weekends and take these calls. So once we implement the application, the work order management, we will have somebody, a live human, answering calls 24/7, weekends and nights.
Okay, will that person serve like as a dispatcher operator so they can transfer that call to the necessary department, or just?
So I don't know
right
exactly
what it looks like.
I'm sure some categories will require immediate assistance, like maybe like a bursted pipe on 27th Avenue that might require kind of an emergency. And there's probably some that'll just kind of be a little more routine, but kind of picture something like the Miami-Dade 311 on an Opa-locka scale.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, because I just wanted to know, will that person on the receiving end of the call be able to point that citizen in the right direction?
They won't point them. The idea is not to point them. The idea is to handle it for them.
Is to do what?
Is to actually take care of the
care of
situation
the
for
problem,
them. And the reason why the application is so important to this is once they call in and we actually create a ticket, they'll get text messages and email alerts throughout the process until it's resolved.
Like a help desk,
Like a
correct?
help desk.
That's exactly
That's
what
how
it
I was
is.
thinking
It's like
too.
a Miami-Dade 311, but answered by a live human, which
And when do you expect that to actually go live?
as soon as we're done implementing the work order management system, immediately after. So this is, I would say, no more than 90 days and probably way
now,
sooner.
We talked about 311. Will that number be simple like that, or it's gonna be like 305 something?
It'll be a 10-digit number. 311 for Opelaca is Miami-Dade County. So we can't, supersede that 311.
No, not 311 specifically, but is there a way for us to get our own?
What we're trying to do now is find a simplified number, something that, a very simple number, maybe like a 953-2000, something simple that can be easily remembered,
quick and easy,
and we can give out to all of our residents.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Davis?
Thank you. Nelson, I have a question as it relates to the Wi-Fi, I guess, at all public spaces. I know that we're going through a crucial phase where we're reimagining our parks and public spaces and moving through several capital projects. But as it relates to this upgrade in our public spaces, with the public Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi, would it be accessible for residents? Like if I was a community member, would I be able to access the Wi-Fi, or is it only limited to park staff?
Oh, no,
and, like,
it'll-
city infrastructure?
No, this is public Wi-Fi.
Oh, so it's
This is, what
public.
I'm speaking about here is public Wi-Fi. I'm not talking about employees. This is specifically public Wi-Fi. And honestly, my focus is the outdoor spaces.
Outdoor space. Okay, my next question is, so if it's in our public spaces, if I'm in my house, like if I'm a student and I'm attending online school, would I be able to access that internet from my house, or would I have to probably go to the park to utilize it?
So if we want to do a municipal Wi-Fi, that's a much bigger project.
Okay, so it's not municipal, okay.
It's not municipal. It's literally at our public spaces.
So they would have to go to parks
Right.
to utilize.
Right,
Okay, I just wanted to have that understanding. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nelson, I'm sorry, one more question. In
Sure.
regards to the app and the websites, is there a way, will our citizens be able to set up profiles?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so like if they have a license or something, they can see it pending when they type into their profile?
Correct. Although I will tell you that the profiles will not be required to submit anything, only if they want to. It's highly encouraged, of course, because you'll have your own profile. You'll be able to see all your different things and all your former requests and all your
And all your
stuff, but it's not
tickets and all
required to
that. Okay.
submit a request. We don't want to limit anyone, but we'll definitely encourage it.
Thank you. Two things with the C-Click fix. I heard that there were certain categories that you wanted to narrow it down to. I like the fact of potholes. I would personally love to see something that deals with beautification and illegal dumping.
Oh, yes.
So if that can be one of those priorities, I don't know if we need to discuss that or vote on it. I don't know, but I really believe that people need to be able, if they see trash out there, they could take a picture and it's immediately reported.
Absolutely.
Right.
We should start with that.
The other thing is that I know that in many municipalities, they has been having this growth of this neighborhoods app. And there is some limited participation in the city of Opelaca. Is that something that we thinking about incorporating and a part of what we do in our IT infrastructure alongside C-Click Fix, or is it C-Click Fix? Is that like how does that work?
So the neighborhood app, there's two. There's one is the neighborhoods app and one is Neighbors. One is actually run by the Ring, the doorbell company, and the other one's actually an independent other software. Both of these softwares, there can be limited roles from the municipality. And I've spoken to both of the companies, and I've asked them, hey, we want to be more involved. What's the step? And they said, you can be kind of as a limited partner in it if you want to respond to your constituents, but it's actually made for the community, for the community to speak amongst themselves. So what cities do is they get involved or listen in there or provide communication within that app, kind of as like a direct channel coming into their app. And that's what I was told directly from the neighborhood app. The neighbors from Ring, and I might be crossing the names, but the Ring, the neighbors from Ring, that is more of a police involvement in that app, where the residents can directly share the footage from their doorbell. If something happened, they can quickly share that with the police or share that with the administration. But again, they're both limited roles for both of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir. Next, we will have our Public Works Director, Mr. Ari Austin.
Okay. I would like to present a limited number of items. If you have any questions, please feel free to provide them after I've gone. I'm going to start with the pump stations. Pump stations number 4, 5, 7, and 8 are on the moratorium. These stations were lined. Pump station number 8 is the one remaining descendant from the possible approval from DERM because we were unable to have it tested within our window of opportunity that expired November of this year. And this was a result of inclement weather in the month of November, which precluded us from doing so. The city has 37 miles of underground gravity mains. And with this initiative, we lined 6 miles of our gravity mains, 32 remaining. The intent is to have all our pump stations online without moratorium to help with the commerce in all of our areas of concern. With pump station 8 being out of service, it will be affecting 121 businesses from entering into any new agreements, upgrading their facilities, or changing their operations. So we hope to get that tested by the first period of the rainy season, which is June of this year. Utility transition to Miami-Dade County. We have in our system, we have 5,603 meters, electronic meters that support our customers. 5,271 have been replaced, leaving a balance of 332 meters to be installed at a cost of $68,000. The county hopes to have those meters installed by year end this year. Our milling and resurfacing initiative for 2020, fiscal year 2020, our goal was to mill and resurface 6 miles of roadway. This is ongoing. It was inhibited again due to inclement weather in the month of November. However, the project is intended to be wrapped up in the month of February. Of this, 10 miles of roadway was previously completed by the city of Opelocka, and 5 miles was completed by Miami-Dade County. Our sidewalk initiative, we're installing new sidewalks in our downtown area, which is closest to our Tri-Rail station. We hope to install by the end of March 2.6 miles of sidewalk, new sidewalk, and to date 0.2 miles of sidewalk or 1,250 feet have been installed. We undertook the initiative to upgrade our city lighting systems. We have a total of 662 lights, for which 662 lights have been replaced. We are in the process of having FP&L install some additional lights in areas that were not previously lit, that is currently being used as dumping areas. And one of these areas are 127 Northwest 127th Street between 32nd Avenue and Carroll Lane. And the second area is 31st Avenue between 132nd Street and 129th Street. Those are very egregious dumping areas. In addition to that, we are going to be doing some additional deterrence for that problem. On our stormwater initiative, as mentioned before, the stormwater master plan was initiated in the latter months of last year. This project is expected to be wrapped up in the end of February, where we will be presented with a master plan of what needs to be done in the city and a list of prioritized projects to help in our problems with flooding throughout our community. Our local initiative to deal with these flooding concerns, to date, we've cleaned 147 drainage inlets and 3,588 feet of drainage piping underground. That concludes my overview of major accomplishments for Public Works and CIP. I'm open to any questions or concerns.
Any questions for Mr. Austin? Commissioner Taylor?
Mr. Austin, I don't know if you can answer this question, but you brought up lighting, and I remember there was an issue with the parks lighting. Was that project ever completed?
That project is ongoing. The vendor is in the process of procuring the lights necessary to install at the facility.
And the last thing is, you talked about the milling and resurfacing. Okay, maybe I misunderstood. Were you saying it's going to be completed by February, or it's going to start back in February?
It's going to be completed by February. You should have a map of all the areas and the streets we intend to mill and resurface in the fiscal year 20.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? As everyone knows, this public works and our infrastructure is very near and dear to my heart, and because it affects so much in terms of residential and business life. And I am happy to see these graphs and pictures that can clearly detail to our residents what we have done in terms of streets getting remilled, what is planned, and pictures. I would love to continue to ensure that when these projects are going, us to just continue to notify us as a commission, because those are some of the best projects for residents to get excited about. So more videos, more pictures on social media, so that people know that we are making significant progress, especially when it comes to roads, streets remilling, and also this sidewalk construction, which in many of our neighborhoods, people have been asking for decades. So it is exciting to see that we are moving forward in these projects. And I want to thank you, Mr. Austin, for moving these projects forward and providing these visuals. The only visual that I am missing is in regards to the pump stations. I remember prior to, there was a map that showed many years ago where we had majority of our pump stations under moratorium, and now it seems as though we will only have one. I think that's a really good visual to show. And also we can see how that pump station being into moratorium affects our business areas. I don't know if there's a possibility to get a graph like that to show the impact that a pump station being under moratorium has on our city.
We would work on that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Williams.
I'm not sure if Mr. Ellis is still on the call,
I'm still on the call.
on the line.
I'm
Okay.
still here.
I would love for these pictures that we're looking at, maybe not so much the graphs. I'm not sure residents will understand it, which are, what actually they are pretty self-explanatory. But I think just to piggyback on what Mayor Pygott just said, we really need to show the good work and the good stuff that's happening. And can we get these pictures on our website? The pictures that we're looking at of the sidewalk?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I don't think that'd be any problem. We'll just have to get that to IT.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That would be any problem. I think we just have to get it to the IT department, and we should be able to put that on the website.
Okay.
On our webpage.
So I don't know who have the pictures. I'm assuming someone at Mr. Austin or his department, but if we can.
We have those pictures in CIP and we will provide them to the IT staff for publishing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on, no further questions. Moving on to next, Mr. Manager.
Our next presenter will be the Finance Department through Mrs. Lazar, Jerry Lazar.
So, good evening, everyone. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, my colleagues, and the guests that are here watching this workshop. I am Jerry Lazar. I'm overseeing the Finance Department for the city in lieu of not having a finance director on an interim basis. And so one of the things that I wanted to share, or what we were asked to share, was some of the accomplishments, some of the challenges, and some of the goals and objectives of our departments. And so I want to share a little bit about that with you. I also want to share that fiscal 20 was a very interesting year for the city, as well as many other local governments throughout the United States. In the fact that COVID-19 disrupted many of the operations and services that have been provided by local government. It disrupted the city and it was impacted through disruption of service, utility revenue collection issues, increase in medical and public safety spending. Obviously, as a result of the coronavirus, we had a significant amount of sick leave. So there's been some sickness within our environment. And I really want to use this time to really thank the federal government for stepping in and assisting local governments, such as the city of Opelaca, in combating the budgetary constraints associated with such a huge impact on our budget, right? Because of all of these changes, our budget has been affected, but I will say the city of Opelaca has benefited tremendously from the coronavirus funding. And so I would encourage the city to write to the federal government to say thank you. I'm sure other local governments are probably doing the same thing. I will highlight some of those areas within my presentation to let you know. I also want to mention that the financial affairs of the city and the finance department is seen as one of the 4 major challenges of the city. So in instances in my discussion where I believe we've addressed some of the major issues that have impeded the city over the last 4 to 5 years, I will highlight that as well. So the city is still in financial emergency, but I think there's been still some great gains that have come out of the finance department. So I will highlight them in a certain order. I'll go through the accomplishments first. I'll then touch on the challenges, and then I'll talk about the goals of the department. So the city, along with other cities in Miami-Dade County. So I'll talk about the first accomplishment of the city. The city, like other cities in the Miami-Dade County, receives surtax funding. The surtax funding is as a result of the half penny sales tax That was implemented some years ago, where different local governments get a portion of the sales surtax funding, which is the local sales tax, to implement initiatives with respect to transit and transportation. The city receives about $500,000 to $700,000 in funding as a result of this surtax dollars. And back in 2014 or 2015, when the financial emergency began, the city was behind in its audits and producing the audits of the surtax funding. As a result, Miami-Dade County stopped advancing the surtax funding to the city like they do with other cities. And as a result, they would not reimburse the city for any funding for transportation or transit until an audit was done. Last year, the city was successful in completing the surtax audit for fiscal 15, 16, and 17, but most recently, a report was issued today for fiscal 18. So we recently completed the fiscal 18 surtax audit with Miami-Dade County, and they are recommending to release to the city $261,546. That will be released to the city sometime either this month or next month. In addition, that report, which will be sending to the city manager's office, which may have already been sent as well, the city has a total of $469,000 in unspent surtax dollars related to transit because we were not meeting those goals. So that's something that Mr. Austin could definitely use within his department to fulfill some of the transit related activity that he has. The second thing that I wanted to talk about had to do with CARES Act funding. So this is where I went into my discussion earlier about the federal government coming in and being able to support many local governments. And one of the ways that they did that was to disperse monies to municipalities through reimbursements of operating costs, which is one level. And then the second level was through program funding, which had to penetrate your community. And the city was able to get an allocation of $2.1 million from Miami-Dade County to implement towards a housing program and a grocery gift card program. I would like to share that approximately $1.5 million, let me change that number, I apologize. Approximately $1.6 million was released in the community for the grocery gift card program. So definitely want to thank everyone who assisted with that. That was a program that had to be spent rather quickly. And we had many departments that came on board to help implement the grocery gift card program. So thanks to the parks, IT, the clerk's office who provided some support, also community development, the city manager's office, and some individuals from the finance department. Also special thanks to the program administrator that was hired, Linda Taylor, and obviously Commissioner Chris Davis, who assisted us in propelling that initiative. So we did spend $1.6 million in grocery gift cards to the community. The results for the housing program have not been provided just yet from Miami-Dade County, but once we know that, we will share that information. We are also right now working with Miami-Dade County. We actually had a conference call with them earlier today to walk through the supporting documents that needs to be submitted to them in order for the city to get reimbursed for the $1.6 million. So the city had to disperse the funds, and then we will submit supporting documents to them to support all of the grocery gift cards that were provided, and then we will get reimbursed for that. So that's the second thing that I wanted to note as an accomplishment. The third item, so I mentioned that there were program funds that were allocated to the city, but there were also operating funds. So this is where the funding helped the city. So this funding helped to reimburse the city for remote work accommodations, public safety, hazard pay that was provided to first responders, which is our police officers. It also helped to pay for sick leave, staggered shifts. I think HR kind of shared some of the staggered shift initiatives that the city had. We still kept employees on pay even with the staggered shifts. And so with all the costs incurred by the city, we were approved to get reimbursed by Miami-Dade County for $1.9 million. We have not received the total $1.9 million. What we're doing right now is we're gathering all of the supporting documents to submit to Miami-Dade County to be able to get reimbursed. But the money had to be spent by December 30th. So we expended the dollars for all of the costs that we're going to get reimbursed for the 1.9 by December 30th, as well as the funding that was expended for the grocery gift card program. The fourth thing that I want to touch on in terms of an accomplishment, I think somebody mentioned it earlier. I wasn't sure who mentioned it, but the releasing of, could have been the city manager through his report, but the releasing of the $5.2 million from that was held by City National Bank. So because the city went into financial emergency, because of that declaration, City National Bank made a decision to withhold excess funding that they had in a tax revenue bank account that we had with them. As a requirement of our 2015 A and B bond, we pledged our communication tax as well as some franchise tax to pay for the bond. And so there's excess funding that is accumulated in a bank account to pay this bond. At the end of the year, based on the agreement, we're supposed to get those monies back. But because of the declaration of the financial emergency, they were not allowing the city to take those monies back to put into operations. So over a 4-year period, that money built up to $5.2 million through the city attorney, manager's office, and some assistance from the finance department. The city was able to negotiate with City National Bank to release the monies as a result of favorable audits and the fact that the city is moving in a different direction. And as a result of that, the city was able to take half of that money and insert it into their operating funds, which has assisted the budget, I would say significantly, and also significantly assisted with the 5-year recovery plan to be able to disperse those monies to be able to do different projects for the city. The other half of the money went towards paying down the 2015 A bond, which is also a great thing as well, which will be reflected in the fiscal 20 audit. We will not see those numbers reflected in fiscal 19 audit, but we will see that reflected in fiscal 20. And then a small portion of it was used to pay for attorney's fees due to the bank for the work that they have been doing with respect to the negotiations. The fifth thing that I want to talk about is, I think I mentioned earlier that we recently finished a fiscal 18 audit where we're going to get 261,000 released to the city. But I wanted to highlight again the fact that we completed the 15, 16, and 17 surtax audit earlier in the year. It was actually completed last January, where the city also received $901,000 and $901,927 for the past 3 audits that were in arrears. And that also benefited the budget as well as the 5-year recovery plan. I do want to say that the finance department had significant assistance from Mr. Austin's team, which is, I would call the PTP department, the transportation department, and assisting us in getting that audit preparation done with Miami-Dade County. The sixth thing that I wanted to mention highlights the police department. So the police department, when they have seizures of forfeiture funds, at the federal level, that is handled by the Department of Treasury and the Department of Justice. And the city had been in arrears in submitting their annual certifications for 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And as a result of that, some funding that was due to them that's allocated to different police forces when they have a federal seizure was being withheld as a result of these certifications not done. We were successful in assisting them in getting those certifications done. And we're waiting from the DOJ to find out what's the allocation that will be submitted to the city. And then we will share that information with you. The seventh thing that I want to kind of highlight is the city's finance department has teamed up with the HR department to provide more accountability in the payroll process. And we're working in conjunction with one another to make sure that the information is being processed appropriately. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, obviously, was the financial audit for fiscal 18 that was completed in May of 2020. Took a big effort to get this completed as a result of COVID-19 occurring in the middle of the process. But I just want to thank the audit team, as well as the finance department, as well as everyone else within the city who contributed to assisting us in meeting that deadline and getting the audit done on time, which assisted the city in not having funds withheld at the federal level, at the state level, with our revenue sharing dollars. We also, which this is tremendous because the city underwent a operational audit by the Florida Auditor General, where they come in and they audited not just the finance department, they audited the entire city from an operations perspective. And one of the biggest issues that came out of the finance department is the bank reconciliations. And if you know anything about running a business or any government agency, cash is king. And so monitoring and having controls in place to monitor your cash flow is critical in any organization. And it appears as if the city did not have proper controls in terms of having bank reconciliations performed on a monthly basis. Why is that so critical? The city has 21 bank accounts. And so having those accounts reconciled on a monthly basis is very key. The city had been behind in reconciling its bank accounts for quite some years, which directly contributed to why the city had I apologize, a disclaimer of opinion on the 15 and 16 audit. Most auditors will not sign off on a clean opinion with your cash not balanced. But we were able to get the 17 audit balance, and we were able to get the 18 audit balance in order to get a better opinion. But we've also been able to keep that traction going, and our team is constantly making sure that the reconciliations are being performed. We also recently just finalized the fiscal 19 bank reconciliations, which is also tremendous progress because in previous audits, we were completing the bank reconciliations while the auditors were on site. And now we're at the stage where before the audit is beginning, we've actually completed the bank reconciliation. So I'm really proud of the team for getting that done. We successfully recruited 2 new accountants. And also we assisted HR with the recruitment of a budget administrator, which I think we can all attest to the fact has had tremendous results, positive results to the city in terms of being able to get budgets out on a timely basis, to be able to do budget amendments, and also to submit the 5-year recovery plan that had not been submitted over the last 3 or 4 years. So the finance department contributed to that. So I wanted to highlight that. Also in the recruiting of the new accountants, one of the new accountants is a CPA, which I think is very critical because it's the only employed CPA for the city in quite some time. I believe the last CPA on board was either in 2015 or 2017. Outside of your consultants, so at least you have an employee on board who is a CPA. I also want to state that the city is timely in making its long-term debt payments. Some of the major long-term debt payments that the city has is our 2011 A and B bond, which is associated with capital improvements that were done back in 2011, but we'll continue to pay those bonds on time. That is with BB&T. The city also has a 2015 A and B bond, which is associated with the purchasing of the building, and those have been paid on time with no problems. The city also uses the state revolving loan fund through the Florida Department of Economics, I believe, or environmental agency, where we are able to use their loan system to pay for certain infrastructure projects through Mr. Austin's department. We have been on time with those payments. Our next upcoming payment is January 15, which the manager's already signed off on those payments. The other major debt that we have is the debt with Miami-Dade County for past water and sewer billings that were not paid in the past, as well as some other costs. We are on time in making those debt payments as a result of Miami-Dade County doing our water and sewer billings. They actually take out the monthly payment due to them. So we're always paid on time. The city had been behind in paying the red light camera debt. The way this works is that the city, there's Florida statute that has a violator program. And so because the city has the red light camera, every infraction, we get a certain dollar amount of the ticket, but a portion of it also goes to the state. So what the city was doing in the past is that when the monies would be deposited into our bank account, we would not then submit the monies directly to the state for their portion. So we were incurring debt due to the state of Florida for the red light camera. I am pleased to say last year we paid approximately $934,000 to the state of Florida for the red light camera debt. And we are working on putting the numbers together to make sure that we're current and making the payments for fiscal 21. The city's finance department also worked on creating a monthly operational plan to try to keep the finance department with some kind of accountability plan and ensuring that staff were equally assigned to do different projects, and that has been going well. We have had some transitions within the department, and so we're just working to reallocate some of those projects and responsibilities to our team. I'm going to now dive into some of the challenges within the finance department. One of the challenges has been the recruitment of a finance director and senior accountants on the city side. We have worked with city manager's office and HR to try to get a really good job description out of what the city needs in terms of trying to recruit these individuals, but the city has not had a big push in individuals applying for those positions. And so I'll let the city manager and the HR department speak more on that, but that does affect the department to some extent, especially not being able to get senior accountants, because what happens is the workload then becomes burden on some of the accountants. We're working on trying to finish a fiscal 19 audit. We're trying to stay current on fiscal 21. We're also trying to prepare for the fiscal 20 audit that's supposed to come right after the fiscal 19 audit. And so what's happening is that we just have many different projects happening, and we don't have enough of the senior leadership to get all the work done. While most finance departments are working on 1 year at a time, we're working on 3 years at the same time. But I definitely will say that we've made tremendous progress in terms of getting the prior audits completed. We've done the 15, 16, 17, and 18 audit, which were all behind, and now they are current. Going along the lines of the recruitment, because we're having challenges there, obviously, we're continuing to need assistance with staffing to assure that the finance department is moving at the with the pace of having the budgeted levels positions. Obviously, we don't have them because we don't have the staffing. I would say COVID-19 has also affected our team a little bit, as it has affected many other departments, but because we're a small team, when 1 or 2 people are out, it really creates some problems within the department. COVID-19 has also affected collectability. I mean, so Mr. Austin is over the UB area, but from a financial perspective, you know, I'll look at utility billing from 2 aspects. One, we have the UB billings that were done pre-conversion to Miami-Dade County. So in 17, the city signed a contract to transfer over its water and sewer billings to Miami-Dade County. But all of the billings that we've collected prior to this transition is, you know, more than $7-8 million. And we're having a significant challenge in terms of collecting those funds to the city. And then post transfer of billings to Miami-Dade County, COVID happened. And so as a result, Miami-Dade County's actions in terms of collecting past due billings, you know, obviously they paused a bit on their collection activity, which many other cities did as well, as a result of COVID. And so because of that, we have billings that are in arrears or that we have not collected from customers that needs to be looked into. The last challenge that I'll mention, which has been highlighted by Building and License, and I'm glad Mr. Rodriguez had an opportunity to speak on it as well, but it's the ERP system. The ERP system, the enterprise system, is basically the system that we use to post and record transactions for the city. Obviously, a lot of them are financially related. So the existing system that the city has is SunGuard. There are significant challenges with SunGuard, where many other user departments are not able to utilize it till its full capacity. And so, yes, the system needs to change. But in my discussions with Mr. Rodriguez, it doesn't make sense to switch your ERP system until we finalize or got caught up with the audits, because we'd be paying to keep SunGuard open and then also paying to convert to a new system while all the data is in SunGuard. So one of the things that we talked about was getting the fiscal 20 audit done, using fiscal 21, and then maybe somewhere around the summer or before the summer, start to look at different systems and have that new system in place, ready to be converted for fiscal 22. So again, IT is spearheading the department, but because so many departments utilize the system, I think we'll all have input. I'm sure he'll do a committee of some sort, but IT is the lead over the ERP system, but we have made recommendations to halt implementation or actively seeking a new ERP provider until we can get caught up with the audits, because it doesn't make sense to continue paying for one provider and then also spending the funds that will be needed for the new ERP system. I think I don't know if I highlighted on this, but I think a purchasing officer needs to be budgeted. I know that in discussions with the budget director, this was not thought about in the 5-year recovery plan, but I'm mentioning it as a challenge because what happens with purchasing, I'd say 50% of the transactions of the city are probably payroll related, but the other 50 are not. And they all initiate through a requisition process. That requisition process enables the transaction to be posted through an account. A purchasing officer helps with procurement, they help with bids and proposals and so many other things. But another key function that a purchasing officer has in many different organizations is that they help to review the requisition process to make sure that accounts are being budgeted to the right position. And in a small city as this, it will be good to have that person available to hold the different departments accountable with budget and posting these transactions to the right place. Because what happens is everything is a dump to the finance department. So when things are not posted appropriately to the right place, what happens is at the end of the day, finance is now having to reconcile or re-reconcile or reallocate transactions appropriately to where they should have gone because they were not posted correctly from the beginning, which is happening at the requisition phase. So I think the purchasing officer is a critical role. And I think it's something that should be budgeted to help the city in navigating that process, not just for bids and proposals, but also to keep the city in line in terms of the financial transactions flowing through the system. Because we spent a lot of time prepping for the audit, a significant amount of time doing cleanup of transactions that are not posted appropriately through the system. So let's talk about the goals of the finance department. The goals of the finance department is a new ERP system. I think that's a big thing, a big push with IT, and we will be championing that with IT because there are a lot of limitations within the system that we're working with. Another goal of the finance department is team building. You know, we're a very technical department. And so I think we need to do more team building activity. I'm sure the city wants to do more team building activities with the city as a whole. I know COVID has impacted our networking or building rapport and relationships with one another. But if there's ways that we can work with HR to develop some kind of team building activity for the finance department, I'd like to do that, especially with the team being such a new team, and which is a reason why I really want to propose it. We're a team in transition. We've had a lot of transitions in the fiscal 20 year, but I am proud to say that we have a really good team. But they're a new team where most finance departments have people who've been there for 10, 15, 20 years. Our team, we have a lot of folks who've been there, you know, less than a year. So I think that'll definitely tremendously assist the department. I also want to do more training for the department because we have a CPA. I want to make sure that we're aiding in professional development and getting them access to memberships with the Florida and American Institute of CPAs. I also want to make sure the whole team is registered as members with the Florida Government Officers Association to keep up their skill set and knowing government accounting. Our goal is to finish the fiscal 19 audit. As you know, we've requested an extension from the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee at the state level to give us until March 15th to finish the audit. And so that is a goal of ours. And then right after the fiscal 19 audit, the deadline date for the fiscal 20 audit, which most cities are working on right now, is June 30th. So obviously we want to be able to finalize the fiscal 19 audit. And as I said, our team is working on reconciling 20 at the same time so that we can go into that audit as well. Our goal is to also resolve some of the findings outlined in the operational audit that as weaknesses for the finance department or other departments where there's a financial impact. So our goal is to be able to work on those. But I will say right now, the audit for fiscal 19 has been the main focus for us. The last goal is that in going through the previous audits and looking at the record keeping, we've identified areas where we may have, or the city may have, overpaid some of their DERM payments through the Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources. So the DERM payment is a 6 to 8% fee that the city is supposed to assess on water and sewer. It looks like over the last few years, there may have been some overpayments. Our estimate in the calculation is about 623,000. So we've contacted DERM over the summer through the manager's office for them to look at that. And so Miami-Dade County's audit division contacted us, and they're in the process of preparing to audit what we submitted to see whether or not was an overpayment. And if so, the city will either get some type of reimbursement. Again, it's an estimate. We don't know if that's what we will get or if anything at all, but it is something that we've noted during our observation. So that is the end of my report. I can take any questions you may have at this time.
Any questions for finance?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Davis.
thank you. I have a question through the mayor to Mrs. Lazar as it relates to financial management and the
Yes.
monitoring of cash flow and liquidity as a major challenge. Mrs. Lazar, can you please elaborate?
So I've been told in the past, or let me look at the fiscal 15 and 16 audit. The 15 and 16 audit, the city's general fund had, I think, less than $1 million. Now we're at the point where there's probably $9 to $10 million in the bank. I don't have the actual analysis of the account before me to provide to you, but I will say that the city is in a better state than it was 4 or 5 years ago from a cash flow perspective. Now, with respect to financial management banking activity, there was no reconciliations being prepared at all in the past. Let me say this. Perhaps they were prepared. We could not identify them. Let me share that. I have not been able to identify bank reconciliations performed for fiscal 14, 15, 16, but we did start to do them in fiscal 17, which is when the audits started to get much better. In terms of detailed analysis on the liquidity and so on and so forth, I do not have that before me today, but if you'd like me to put some analysis together on our liquidity, I can do that for fiscal 18, 17, and 16 to do some comparison analysis for you, but I wouldn't want to do it on years where our audits have not been performed. So I would do it for fiscal 18 and prior, if that's what you seek.
Yes, I would like to request those cash flow reports, just to get a general idea of how liquid we are.
Okay.
I know from our audited financials, we have a strong balance sheet and a strong financial position. So in the long term, I don't think we're gonna have any challenges, but just want to make sure that we are remaining pretty liquid and we do have the ability to pay our bills on time.
Understood.
In addition to that, Mrs. Lazar, I would also like to request on behalf of the commission a letter of thank you letter actually to Miami-Dade County in reference to the 3.5 million in total in COVID-19 funding that we were able to receive from Miami-Dade County. That is a big achievement for our city and our residents. And we on the commission are very thankful to the county for awarding that. So through the mayor, I don't know if my colleagues agree. Maybe we could take a tally or get some sort of consensus as it relates to that. But I thought I would just put that forth and try to get the ball rolling on that. Thank you.
All right, well, through the manager's office, I can work to draft a letter for them to submit to Miami-Dade County or wherever else you wish to have it sent.
Thank you, Ms. Lazier and Commissioner Davis for requesting that. For those that could not see us on Zoom, we all were shaking our head in approval and support of that. So thank you, Commissioner Davis, for making that request. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Lazier in the Finance Department? All right. Thank you, Ms. Lazier, and the work that you're doing. I know in preparation for this State of the City address, I definitely want to get more understanding of this enterprise resource planning software or system and what that looks like for the city. I see it mentioned, I know you briefly mentioned it, but it's something I definitely want to get more of the understanding too. Another goal that I think that we as a commission need to make sure that we impress upon management and finance is the utility billing and to focus on those past due water billing accounts. That was not brought up that I see in these reports about the amount of outstanding funds we have and also our ability to assess those outstanding bills and give proper collections to our residents and also businesses. So it's something that we'll probably focus on as we move forward. I'm pretty sure when we talked before break, we talked about strategic planning as a commission and hopefully putting together a series of workshops over the next few months in this year to tackle these issues head on and start to find out what we can do as a commission to move this forward. With that, the only question that I have is, Ms. Lazier, in terms of our reporting for our quarterly reporting, do we have it? I know we're dealing with audits right now at the moment and the operational audit, the regular audit, but when will we resume with those? When is it looking like to resume with those quarterly financial reports? That kind of speak to what Commissioner Davis was requesting.
Yes, I can answer that. So I've allocated one of the consultants to work on fiscal 21. So my goal is to try to be able to do a first quarter report. We're not at the point where we could do monthly just yet. Obviously, the team is being pulled in many different directions. We're aiding in workshops, we're aiding in audits, we're aiding in day-to-day budget closeout. But I do have a staff designated to work on the fiscal 21 transactions. And what that person is doing is reconciling October, November, and December. So that will be considered the first quarter for fiscal 21. And our goal is to be able to submit to the commission as well as to the state at least a first quarter report of the activity of the city. Just keep in mind, I'd say one of the major issues, I think I've mentioned this in the past, I may not have mentioned it earlier, but because of the fact that the city is under financial oversight, we have a very manual process in reviewing our expenditures. And so because of that, even if we present monthly financial reports, which we will do, right? I mean, the goal is to submit what we have. It will not always be reflective of all of the activity. And that is because this manual process of reviewing our accounts payable, our vendor payments, right? So an invoice comes in, we have a requisition, we then have a manual process where the state has to review it through the financial oversight. It then committee, and then it goes to the state for them to approve it, to verify if we're spending it within budget. Then they send a approval list to the city, and then that approval list then gives authority or action for the manager's office to give a purchase order. Why is that important? The purchase order, when that is initiated, is when it gets posted into SunGuard. So we could have literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get those reports, but they will not always be real time because of this process that we have with the state.
Anything else for finance? All right, I know the hour is getting late. I'm not a fan of Friday meetings in no way, shape, or form at all. So let's try and wrap this up. I know we have one more report from budget. And if we look at our agenda for today, after the State of the City reports, commission discussion, and really the point is to make sure that whatever you heard today, whatever you know of that we've done in the community, to relay that information to myself at the moment of what we want to highlight together as a city. So while we get those last reports, if you can make note to my colleagues of anything in particular you want to make sure that we do highlight, I do highlight in that report so that we can get it over to our PR person, because this is going to be a virtual event. One of the reasons why we are starting this now and we want to get this final reports done today is so that we can start the production process. Our PR person has to take this information, take these pictures, put it into graphics, into slides, and then we have to go through the whole production process of detailing the speech and writing it out and presenting it and recording it. So getting that information now and today will help our PR person with the schedule to get this event going. So as the final report comes, I believe, from our budget, let's be ready for that discussion. And hopefully this last report doesn't take too long. All right. Ms. Manager, you have the floor.
Mr. Anathan.
Yes, sir. Welcome back, Manager.
And I think the mayor gave you your expectation.
Well, I only have 2 hours worth of stuff to cover here. Is that going to be a problem?
Hey, ask the mayor.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes, sir. That was
it is.
That was a joke.
So do what you have to do.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it very quickly, I promise.
All right, do what you have to do to let us know what's going on, because it's
Which is why I want to do cleanup, because basically what you've heard for the last 3 hours is what the city's doing. I've got two primary jobs, one of which is to take all of the activity that you've heard over the past 3 hours, try to rationalize it, and make sure that on the bottom line, the city continues to move in the right direction. So not much of, if I had gone 2 hours earlier, I would have covered a lot of stuff that other people covered. So I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to leave you with some thoughts. Something popped up on my screen. I assume you don't see it. Very quickly, one thing that I can only talk to in general terms, and is kind of alluded to tonight, is the reserves that the city has, available reserves to be used for various projects. As everybody knows, the FY18 audit indicated there was some very significant problems with reserves. Everything we know about 19 and 20 suggests a significant improvement on it, but as has been discussed, those numbers are not audited, and really they can only be alluded to because we don't know with any great certainty. So good news is we're moving in the right direction. We know we are, but at the moment, until we get the audits done, we can't quantify it, but I'll leave that thought with you. The other things I would cover very quickly, just historically, the only other thing I'm going to address at the moment, there has been some comment about the county taking over the utility billing for the city. That is mostly good news. It's compared 2018, the billing numbers that were shown in 2018 were 6 million. The numbers we're looking at for FY20 is 12 million. The problematic portion of that is, as the finance director alluded to a moment ago, the county has cut way back on their collection. The collection rate for FY20 appears to be about 75%, which means they left about $3 million on the table. So that's the only thoughts I'm going to leave you with. Everything else I think has been pretty well addressed for FY20, so I won't go there. The FY21 budget was accepted by the state on schedule without comment. Essentially what it was a budget that was put together under tremendous revenue uncertainty due to the pandemic. What it does is preserve the progress we've made in terms of our reserves. It's dependent on a very lean organization, and that is key. And I'll get back to that in terms of FY20, the 5-year plan. The things that I think I've already addressed it. What was not quantified by the Public Works Director is that the FY21 budget does have a $7.5 million investment plan. Not going to go through that tonight. I believe that's in your notes, but it is certainly a highlight of where we're going. I said my job really was composed of two things, one of which is to try to rationalize everything that goes on in the short term. The second has to do with the 5-year plan. And I have kind of a secondary job there because everything that's proposed currently, I always have to keep reminding people, yeah, but you got to think what the impact is over 5 years. I mean, for example, if you bring on a mid-level person right now, that's going to be about, by the time you get into benefits and so forth, you're talking about $70,000, $80,000 a year. Over a 5-year plan, forget the first year, you're talking $300,000 to $400,000. We had in the general fund plan that we presented for the 5 years, we had about $1.25 million margin in terms of our reserves. You bring 4 or 5 people on board and you've pretty well eroded that. In fact, what I think I will recommend is that certainly the 5-year plan be updated next year because, when I say next year, I really should say this year, because I think we really have to take another look based on some of the things that we'd like to do this year. What it was based on, what the 5-year plan was based on, just to give you a couple facts to think about that I think may be usable in the State of the City messages. 5-year plan was really based on the fact that the city for the last half dozen years, and I think you heard it from both the community development director and also business, the building department. This is a place people want to be. For the last 3, 4, 5 years, the city has regularly ranked in the top 20% of all the cities in the county in terms of the growth of the property tax base. So people are coming. Your plan is looking really good. You've got a very strong tax base. It's getting stronger as we speak. There are a couple clouds on the horizon. One of the shortfalls of our revenue plan is that the property tax revenue is a very significant portion of the total revenue plan. Other cities are able to diversify. So far, we haven't done that. So the good news is that base is growing, but well, I'll leave that at that point. Just will point out one cloud over the 5 years. Probably your next significant revenue source is your red light camera that was alluded to a while back. That is generating about $1 million a year right now for your general fund. I think I heard on the radio today that in the state legislature, they are thinking about introducing a plan to ban that. That, if in fact that occurs, that it's going to put a hole in our revenue plan. But there are other things going on in terms of the growth of property tax base. It would be nice not to lose it, but I don't think it's fatal, but it is a problem. The 5-year plan was able to show a improvement in reserves up to the levels that what's called the GFOA, the Governmental Finance Officers Association standards, which is basically about two months of operating expense. It should be at least that. For the general fund, it should be $3.2 million, $3.3 million by the time you get to FY25. The 5-year plan got it up to 4.5. But again, you have to be careful what you do because you don't want to bulk up your costs because the plan really was built on a mean and lean organization. The other two things that I'll bring to your attention, and they're in the notes in a lot more detail. One is to restore our financial credibility to the point we can get involved in the state revolving fund loan again. I'm sorry, state revolving loan fund, that was backwards. So that we can start to leverage our capital to get the $50 million CIP plan that's in the 5-year plan. And I think that pretty well covers what I want to cover there. What I realized in listening tonight, I was really light on the purchasing aspects. Probably should be added to the accomplishments for the city is that we did update the procurement code. It was a very old and ineffective code. You now have a code that's far more operational, far more effective. So that certainly was an accomplishment. And I apologize, I had not communicated to the finance director, but in fact, we are reviewing each requisition purchase order now to make sure the coding is correct. In fact, an email went out yesterday just highlighting a problem we came across. So that is being done. So we don't have a purchasing officer, but the program is moving forward. We're putting together a measurement system because our payments are not as timely as they should be, which is going to be tracking from the invoice date all the way through to the payment date, so we can identify what the bottlenecks are and make that work a little bit better. I'm going to add one other thing that I did, or two other things actually, that I did not include in my notes, which I should have. And that certainly is the intent to put the stormwater charges onto the property tax bill. For the first time, I think when that's done, for the first time, I believe, each and every property will be paying its fair share of the maintenance and improvement of the stormwater system, which is not occurring today. And one last thing, which has not really been addressed, and I'll just throw this out. I didn't put it in fact, I did allude to in my notes. You do have a mini task force that's working in terms of city beautification. We've come up with, I think, some creative ideas, affordable things that can be done that we'd like to go forward with, certainly in the not too distant future, and put them up for discussion. So it's now 8:40. I will go no further. I'm stand ready to answer any questions that might come up. But other than that, that's all I want to share for the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Anathan. And to my colleagues, I want to, Mr. Anathan did go over his report, but in looking at his report, and also I just noticed that you'll see in this package, there's a black and there's some sheets that are red. Those are actual answers to questions. So these are stuff we've been working on for a few weeks now. Those are actual pointed answers to questions that I asked to give more detail. And you will find a very thorough and simplified understanding by looking at this stuff. So yeah, a lot of our questions are clearly defined in these reports. So with that, is there any questions, comments for Mr. Anathan? Okay. Mr. Anathan, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So does that conclude all the reports? Mr. Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk.
It includes,
Mr. Mayor.
it includes all the reports from the city manager's office, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I have a memo from the city clerk. I don't know if the mayor and commission would like me to read it or if you guys are okay with the memo that was submitted.
All right. Do I have that memo?
Yeah, I put it on everybody's desk. It's just a one-page memo.
Fine, we got it. All right.
Okay.
All right. Good. And Madam Attorney?
We also submitted our accomplishments prior, but I can also go ahead and read off a couple of highlights if that is the desire of the commission.
Yeah. Do we have that here with us?
No, I didn't see it. I don't know if it was emailed directly to me or I didn't see it in my email, but I can supply it after.
All right. Yeah, let's definitely get that report. And if Madam Attorney, could you do the highlights for that?
I'm sorry, kind of low. I didn't hear you, Mayor.
So could you go through some
Oh,
highlights
okay.
for the memo
Yeah.
that we will get as a commission? Because right now we don't have that in front of us. So it would be great if we can get some highlights.
Okay, it's just a good evening, everyone, Mayor, Commission. Just to go through a few things. We've represented the city at all city commission meetings, workshops, and other required meetings. We've successfully defended the city in key litigation matters and also on appeal cases. We work towards successful settlement of certain litigation matters when appropriate, which saved the city millions of dollars. We've continued in the standardization of city contracts and initiated regular meetings with planning staff to discuss contracts before proceeding to the commission. We've completed review and necessary revisions of all city commission agenda items, and additionally identified and updated certain city code provisions where they were inconsistent with Florida law or city practices. We have held training for new city commissioners to include sunshine and public records laws. Additionally, we have navigated numerous executive orders pertaining to COVID-19 and the city's obligations. We prepared city emergency orders and related to COVID-19, consistent with federal, state, and county guidelines, interpreted various county, state, and CDC guidelines for city staff, including the police. We've collected and negotiated the forfeiture of funds due to the city. And as you know, we're integral in that negotiation, as mentioned prior, by finance and the city manager. And we have drafted procurement documents for CCNA within the Florida statutes, activities that save the city substantial dollars, alleviating the need to constantly procure such services, and regularly review procurement matters for legal compliance. And that will conclude my report to go over a few of those.
Any questions for the city attorney? All right, moving on to commission discussion. Is there any points in particular that we want to highlight or any initiatives? One thing that's important is that we do highlight people in our community, business owners. I know each of us have had people we've interacted with, come across that have some amazing things they got going on in Opelaca. We want to be able to highlight them. So if you can share any of that or submit it to the clerk's office, Mr. Grice, so that we can share that, this is the time to do so. So is there any other comments, questions on this state of the city?
I know that, Mr. Mayor, I know that hour is getting, no, it is late. Not getting, it is. I would like, however, I did make some notes and just to give an overall assessment of what I hear and just the work that just needs or should, and I'm sure will continue, and I hope is being highlighted and will be highlighted. We know at the forefront of everything, the first thing that I believe we all can agree is infrastructure is the most major, one of the major things that we know, and I hope that we continue infrastructure, not just in the community roads or milling or surfacing projects, but also the infrastructure, which with increasing our super highway of digital divide, as long as we're continuing to increase that so that we can show that we are major players as a municipality. We know policing is crucial. I did hear some positive things that came out of, so I hope we can definitely highlight that. Parks and recreation, very positive focus, vision that I would like to, see get. I know we don't, have specifics, but as long as you have a vision, if you have a goal, then that's where you work from. And I see that goals are there. Engaging citizens, that I believe is something that we, I've been talking about with the city manager's office several times, coming up with ways and strategies that we engage citizens. I would like to continue or work with Ms. Modkin's department, office, whatever you call it, I don't know, so that we can continue to build ways to engage the citizens of Opelaca. For far too long, our citizens they're unengaged, and we have to figure out ways to engage them, and we can't just set them aside and say, well, they're not active. Well, we got to get them active. It's our job and our goal to make sure that they understand the way government works. That's the only way we're going to build the bench, so that we're gone, someone in this community understands how government works. Continuing to attract new and diverse businesses and ensuring that businesses that are here are meeting standards and codes that should be met. And if those standards and codes are not met, be it code enforcement or zoning or however that is, we need to make sure that's happening. But I believe at the forefront Our CRA is an important board, if not most important, but it's not most important, but it's an important board. And we know that as a municipality, businesses are the driving force. And if we do not attract new and diverse businesses, then I think we're just going to be rolling our hands. And I definitely love the restoration of City Hall. I believe all residents that have been here 10 plus years who sees old City Hall, I can only imagine the tears that will come out of their eyes when they see the old City Hall restored. And I believe I can speak that for everyone up here, because we are definitely throwback Opa-locka residents. So that's what I have. I know I was a mouthful, but those are the notes that I would like to see. And I would just like to continue to work with all the departments and hope that we can make it happen. Thank you.
That was on point, Vice Mayor Williams. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention and sharing those thoughts. We'll make sure that I include that as I prepare for the State of the City address. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, real quick, don't
Commissioner
want to
Davis.
really keep us, but I'll just touch on a few points. So earlier, what was September of last year, the commission voted to repeal a law that, in my opinion, disproportionately affected a certain segment of our population, that being young African-American, Black and brown men and women. I actually spearheaded that law and was able to garner majority support from the commission to push that through. And definitely would like to see that highlighted and letting our residents know that we are committed to providing fairer and more equitable policies to our residents. In addition to that, also, I would like to point out the COVID funding. Of course, we were able to receive over 3.56 million from Miami-Dade County in reference to COVID-19, which significantly helped our community and helped our city out during these difficult times. In addition to that, we also spearheaded our first parks forum. So definitely want to let residents know that we are reimagining our parks. We have several capital projects such as the Set Center and others that are coming online, and hopefully we'll be providing much needed resources to our community. And that's in addition to the infrastructure improvements and sidewalks and various capital projects that are taking place around town. Yeah, I'll just offer those as a recommendation from my perspective. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Taylor?
The only one, because everybody touched on all of the ones I wrote down. So the only one I would think of is the redevelopment of Ingram Park.
Gotcha. Oh, Commissioner Davis?
And just one additional point, Mr. Mayor, if you recall our trip to Tallahassee to present in front of the JLAC committee in reference to those funds that were being withheld for the past due audits. I think that's definitely a valuable point, and of course you can speak to that, being that you was intimately involved in that project.
All right, gotcha. Thank you very much to my colleagues for participating and offering such great feedback and engaging. This is everything I've ever wanted. Yes, so I will take this into consideration over the weekend. I'll be taking this information from these reports, these comments, and I'll be preparing that for Monday meetings that I'm having with the city manager, the departments, and all those are involved with the state of the city. And we will be finalizing this document. So I will try and give as many updates as we can with the upcoming workshops and also the commission meeting that we have. We do have with this meeting with the State of the City report, this gave us a good landscape of what's going on in the city of Opelaca, in each department. What are those goals, those challenges to help us become more informed? One of the visions that I want to make sure that we have here is that we are one of the most informed commissions, because that level of information gives us the tools to figure out how to move this city forward. And you'll see I get asked for reports, make sure that everyone gets those reports so that we can be more pointed in what we want to see changed. Because at this moment, and in any city, those sitting right here on this dais is the most powerful force for changing the landscape of our city. I know Commissioner Teller mentioned that in his speech when he came here and got elected, as being a unified front. Change can happen, and that change agent is one of the things that Vice Mayor Williams continue to push. So I'm excited about the direction of this commission and what we're doing and the level of engagement that we're having. So as we get this State of the City report complete, we have this operational audit, which is one of the best documents to detail the challenges that we face. With those two in our minds and being clear about those things, we have what we need in order to create a strategic plan for things we want to accomplish together as a commission. So I am very excited, and I know that those that are watching are excited. And I just want to say thank you for serving. And I want to thank all the staff that have joined us on this Friday evening at this time, and also put in the work to provide us with this information and the work that you've done over this year, despite the pandemic and the challenges that we're all facing, personal, professional life that we have to deal with as we do the work of the people for the city of Opelaca. So thank you very much for your time. With that, if I don't have any other further comments, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Davis.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Williams. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you.